Chapter 662. There was complete silence around the fate fighting platform. Everyone widened their eyes and stared intently at Lu Ming's figure on the platform. Old Monster Demonic Wind had been killed in one shot. Lu Ming had merged 3 wills. Was this Lu Ming's true strength? It was too terrifying. Or perhaps this was not Lu Ming's true strength. After the silence, there was a fierce uproar. Some people were discussing excitedly, while others were screaming excitedly. Is this his true strength? Luo Xian whispered, her eyes filled with disbelief. Beside her, Chun Zhao's body began to tremble violently. It was because of fear and shock. It turned out that ever since he had met Lu Ming had never shown his true strength. What he had seen was only the tip of the iceberg. Even though he had repeatedly provoked Lu Ming, he had not shown his strength to kill him. Perhaps Lu Ming could not be bothered to reveal his abilities in front of him. He could not even be bothered to kill him. Perhaps in Lu Ming's eyes, he was no different from a wild dog barking by the roadside. He did not take him seriously at all. Thinking of this, he was filled with a deep sense of powerlessness. His brother, whom he had always been proud of, was probably defeated by Lu Ming in one move. In the battle platform, Lu Ming's figure flashed and devoured Old Monster Demonic Wind's essence blood. At the same time, the storage ring naturally fell into his hands. Who else? Who wants to come up and fight? Lu Ming's clear voice resounded throughout the entire Fate battle platform. The entire Fate battle platform fell silent. What a joke! Even an old monster like Old Monster Demonic Wind had died. Who else would be willing to court death? Lu Ming waited for 2 minutes and glanced around. Seeing that no one wanted to come up, he was about to leave. The King of Hell is here. At this moment, a loud shout resounded throughout the Fate battle platform. The entire Fate battle platform fell silent, followed by an earth-shattering uproar. What? The King of Hell is here? Where is he? Really? Where is he? At the main entrance. Look. After a moment of noise, everyone's gaze turned towards the direction of the entrance. Lu Ming's heart stirred, and he also looked in that direction. A black-robed man, wearing a Yama mask, slowly made his way into the palace. As he took one step at a time, he stepped on the void and appeared at the edge of the fighting ring. On the mask, 2 sharp eyes stared at Lu Ming. Lu Ming also looked at him. Everyone suddenly felt their heartbeats quicken. Could it be that the King of Hell wants to challenge the Azura? It's possible, it's possible. The King of Hell has disappeared for so many days and has finally reappeared. Now that such a powerful opponent has appeared, he might really make his move. Heavens! Yama versus Azura. Who is stronger? I'm looking forward to it. Indeed, I'm looking forward to it. Ever since the rise of the King of Hell, he has never tasted defeat. He has killed several old monsters. However, no one knows how strong Shura is. He probably didn't use his full strength when killing Old Monster Demonic Wind. Hundreds of thousands of pairs of eyes stared at Lu Ming and the King of Hell with anticipation in their eyes. The King of Hell versus Azura. This was going to be a battle of the pinnacle. Clang! The sound of a sword rang out, and the aura of the King of Hell suddenly surged. His body emitted a dazzling golden light, and a golden sword light shot into the sky. Boom! In an instant, as if there was a connection between the aura, Lu Ming's body also erupted with a powerful aura, and a spear light shot into the sky. Then the sword light and the spear light met in the air and collided violently. An earth-shattering explosion rang out, and the force of the collision swept out in all directions. Just the collision of the auras was enough to make the scene shocking. Are they really going to fight? At this moment, everyone held their breaths and stared with wide eyes, unblinking. However, to their disappointment, the King of Hell and Azura did not make a move after the collision of auras. Azura stood in the battle platform, while the King of Hell stood in the air. They did not fight. This person is so strong. Lu Ming's eyes shone brightly, and they were like two divine spears that pierced through the air. Lu Ming felt an immense pressure coming from the King of Hell. He had never felt such pressure from a martial artist of the same level as him. The King of Hell was definitely a terrifying opponent. At the same time, the golden light in the King of Hell's eyes shone brightly, as if two golden swords were about to shoot out. He did not move, as he also felt a strong pressure coming from Lu Ming. He was not confident, and he had a feeling that if they were to fight, one of them would definitely die. Moreover, he was not confident that he would be the one to win. The King of Hell was also surprised. He did not expect to meet such a strong opponent here. Even in the entire eastern wilderness, there were not many people like him. The two of them faced off for a while, and suddenly the King of Hell retracted his aura. At the same time, Lu Ming also retracted his aura. Without saying anything else, the King of Hell turned around and left. They are not fighting anymore. Almost everyone was disappointed. They thought that there would be a battle of the pinnacle. Both of them are too strong. Neither of them is confident of defeating the other. That's right. There is no doubt that these two are peerless geniuses. Even on the list of top 1,000 talents, they are evenly matched. Some of the older generation figures said they had figured out the reason. Many people sighed, as they could not see a battle of the pinnacle. Clang! At that instant, a melodious chime could be heard. Clang! Before the first bell had finished ringing, the second bell rang, sounding very urgent. Most of the people's expressions changed drastically. Alarm! Why is the alarm ringing? Someone yelled. Sea beasts are attacking the island. Sea beasts are attacking the island. Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar rang out outside the Fate battle platform. The roar swept through the entire city like a storm and spread wildly into the distance. What? Sea beasts are attacking the island? At this moment, everyone's expression changed drastically. Sea beasts are attacking the island. A beast tide is coming. Everyone head to the eastern sea and attack the sea beasts. The voice rang out again, rumbling in the air. The owner of the voice had a terrifying cultivation. He was definitely a Sea of Spirit Realm expert. Clang! Clang! At the same time, the alarm kept ringing. It was very urgent. Let's go to the Eastern Sea. Let's go. The audience around the Fate battle platform rose into the air like locusts and flew toward the gap above. Sea beasts are attacking the island. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. A figure appeared beside Lu Ming. It was Xian Yanqing. Xiao Qing, let's go and have a look, Lu Ming said. Xian Yanqing nodded and rose into the air with Lu Ming. They blended into the crowd and headed toward the Eastern Sea. In the city, countless figures flew out, blotting out the sky and covering the earth as they flew toward the Eastern Sea. Not only in the city, but also in the mountains around the city. A large number of experts also flew out and headed toward the Eastern Sea. Whenever there was a beast tide, or sea beasts attacking the island, all the martial artists had to unite and fight together. This was a long-standing rule in the chaotic astral ocean. Otherwise, these islands would have been ravaged by sea beasts long ago. Chapter 663. Rumble. A loud, rumbling sound came from the distant sea, and the waves surged to the sky. Everyone stood in the air and looked into the distance. They could see a white line surging towards them. It was a shocking wave. The Far Sea Patrol has sent back a message. A large number of sea beasts are charging towards us. Prepare for battle. An old man in a plain robe appeared in the air. his voice rumbling and spreading throughout the area. The aura emitted from his body was like a vast ocean. It was extremely shocking. This was a Sea of Soul realm expert. Rumble! The sound of the waves was even more shocking. Everyone felt that the sky and the earth were shaking violently. The huge waves were accompanied by the roars of the sea beasts. The waves were getting closer and closer. Everyone's eyes were wide open. That wave was too shocking. It was at least 1,000 meters high and seemed to be reaching into the clouds, washing away the clouds. Countless sea beasts were rolling in the waves. That's the blood shark race. Someone shouted. In one of the waves, everyone saw countless blood-red sharks. These sharks were extremely huge. Any one of them was dozens of meters long. They were blood-red all over, and their roars were endless. It was unknown how many there were. Swordfish race, sea lion race, tiger shark race. Everyone saw a total of 9 groups of sea beasts. They were divided into 9 regions, bringing with them waves as they charged over. The number of sea beasts in each region was hard to count. There were just too many of them. Look, there are people on the waves. There's a person on top of each race. Someone exclaimed. Indeed, there was a figure on top of each of the 9 races. They were walking on the waves, and their auras were shocking. Those aren't humans. They're transformed great beasts, the kings of each race. Above the crowd, the Sea of Soul realm expert said with a grave tone. What? Transformed great beasts? The transformed great beasts of the 9 races are all here? How is this possible? Many people exclaimed. 6th grade beasts were equivalent to Sea of Soul realm experts. They could already transform into human form, so they were also called transformed great beasts. Shape-shifted great beasts lead their own clans and occupy an area of the sea. There are only 7 clans of sea beasts near Jinsha Island. Why are there 9? The beast wave this time is too shocking. In the past, there would only be some small-scale beast waves, and Sea of Souls realm beasts would rarely appear. The scene was in an uproar. Some people's eyes were filled with fear. Countless sea beasts were rolling and roaring in the rapidly approaching waves. The pressure they gave off was too great. Boom, boom. Numerous figures appeared in the sky, each of them emanating an aura that was as vast as the ocean. Sea of Souls realm. All of them were Sea of Souls realm experts. There were 10 of them in total. This caused many martial artists' panicked hearts to calm down slightly. All the Sea of Soul realm experts hiding in Golden Sand Island had appeared. That's the Frost Blade Spirit. The Frost Blade Spirit has also appeared. Someone shouted. Among the 10 Sea of Souls realm experts, there was a white-robed old man. His aura was the most frightening, a lot stronger than the other Sea of Souls realm experts. Haha, this is great. I heard that the Frost Blade Spirit has been in seclusion for 60 years. This beast wave has actually alarmed him. With him here, our chances are much higher this time. Someone saw the white-robed old man and laughed excitedly. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing were mixed in the crowd, looking at the sky. Jinsha Island is truly shocking. There are actually so many experts hidden here. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. Among the crowd, apart from the 10 Sea of Souls realm experts, there were also many other powerful auras. One after another, they rose up like smoke signals. Among them, Lu Ming could feel the auras of Peak Kings. There were no less than 500 of them. Jinsha Island alone had gathered no less than 500 Peak Kings. It was absolutely frightening. The chaotic astral ocean was indeed worthy of being called the chaotic astral ocean. There were too many experts. Every day, there would be many evil people entering the chaotic astral ocean from various regions of the eastern wasteland. A king had a lifespan of 1,000 years. After so many years, who knew how many experts there were in the chaotic astral ocean? It had definitely reached an astonishing number. Rumble! The waves were getting closer and closer, and a fiendish aura pervaded the air. Kill! Kill all the human martial artists. Above the Blood Shark clan's territory, a large man in a blood-red robe stood, roaring loudly. This was the Blood Shark clan's king, who had transformed into a great beast. Kill! Kill! Countless sea beasts roared and pounced toward the island. When demonic beasts reached the 5th level, which was the king level, they would be able to speak. All martial artists below the martial ancestor realm retreat. All martial artists above the martial ancestor realm attack the sea beasts with all your strength. If anyone retreats, kill without mercy. In the air, the Ice Blade Spirit Warrior's voice resounded throughout the entire area. It was incomparably tyrannical. However, no one retorted. Everyone knew that in the current situation, if someone retreated without fighting, there would definitely be more people following suit. Jinsha Island would definitely be in danger. Kill! Kill! Apart from the Iceblade Spirit Warrior, the other 9 Sea of Soul realm experts roared and charged toward the transformed great beasts of the 9 clans with frightening might. Rumble! Rumble! The Sea of Soul realm experts and transformed great beasts fiercely clashed, causing intense rumbling sounds. Kill! The other human martial artists also roared and charged toward the sea beasts. Both sides crazily clashed. All kinds of sword chi, blade lights, palm prints, and fist auras bombarded the waves, causing them to explode. The sea beasts charged out of the water and engaged in a fierce battle with the human martial artists. Blood splattered everywhere. As soon as they came into contact, a large number of sea beasts were killed. At the same time, human martial artists also died tragically. The battle was incomparably tragic as soon as it began. Among the human martial artists, apart from the martial ancestor realm experts, only the Ice Blade Spirit Warrior did not make a move. He stood in the void and scanned the surroundings. As the strongest human martial artist, he had to control the overall situation in case of an emergency. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing charged forward side by side. The area they were in was the territory of the tiger sharks. Roar! Roar! The roar of the tiger sharks was actually similar to that of a ferocious tiger. Their roars were like thunder, and their teeth, which were sharper than blades, bit toward Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing. Lu Ming waved his hand, and a spear light stabbed out, piercing through a 30-meter-long tiger shark. Blood dyed the sea red. This tiger shark was equivalent to a 7th-grade Martial King realm expert. Devouring power burst out and devoured the tiger shark's blood essence. On the side, Xia Nianqing's Sky Demon power field enveloped 5 or 6 tiger sharks and killed them directly. Lu Ming's figure flashed as he devoured all the blood essence. Kill! The infinite dragon's spear appeared in his hand, and Lu Ming charged forward. Wherever the spear light passed, the giant tiger sharks would die in his hands. Swoosh! Chapter 664. Human die? 100-meter-long tiger shark charged at Lu Ming with blood-red eyes. It opened its mouth, and 5 or 6 scimitars flew out, slashing at Lu Ming. Those scimitars were actually formed from the teeth of the tiger shark, and were even sharper than a level 5 spiritual weapon. Lu Ming could tell the strength of a Peak King level tiger shark with a single glance. Dang! Dang! Lu Ming swept out his long spear and deflected 5 to 6 scimitars. A tricolored spear gleam burst out and shot directly into the head of this tiger shark, piercing a transparent hole in the tiger shark. After killing a Peak King level tiger shark with a single move, Yi Chen devoured its essence blood. Lu Ming didn't stop at all and continued to kill. Not only did he devour the essence blood of the tiger sharks he killed, but he also devoured the essence blood of the tiger sharks killed by others. His figure flashed, and the essence blood of the tiger sharks of various levels were devoured by him. Too good. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. It had been a long time since he participated in such a large-scale battle. Such a large-scale battle was hell for others, but for him, it was a holy land for cultivation. He circulated the devouring power of the 9 dragons' bloodline on his palm and continuously devoured the essence blood of the tiger sharks. Of course, if a martial artist died in battle, he wouldn't let them go and devoured all of their essence blood. He split a part of his attention to control the 9 dragons' bloodline and used it to refine the essence blood to upgrade his second bloodline. Kill that masked guy. A loud roar came from nearby, and 3 huge tiger sharks charged at Lu Ming. Xiao! The seawater was condensed into long spears that pierced toward Lu Ming. At the same time, there were also scimitars that cut through the void, breaking through the air to kill. Lu Ming's aura skyrocketed, and he shot into the sky. With a few steps, 3 Peak King level tiger sharks were killed. Not far away, Xian Yanqing was even more shocking. The heavenly demon force field was a perverse existence in a group battle. As long as the tiger sharks were enveloped by the heavenly demon force field, they would be cut into several pieces. Under the spiritual sea, Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming were invincible. Wang! A streak of silver light shot towards Lu Ming at an unimaginable speed. This was also a tiger shark, but it was only 10 meters long. Its entire body was silver, and its body was densely covered with a layer of silver scales. Lu Ming subconsciously swept out with his spear. Bang! Lu Ming's long spear swept across the silver tiger shark's body. It was as if he had been struck by a 10,000-foot tall mountain. His body trembled, and he could not help but retreat 3 steps. However, that silver tiger shark was also sent flying by Lu Ming. What a powerful force! Lu Ming's heart stirred. After the silver tiger shark flew out, it was completely fine. It roared and charged towards Lu Ming again. Under the silver tiger shark's control, the seawater turned into all kinds of weapons. Sharp swords, spears. There were over 100 swords in total, and they surrounded Lu Ming. This is a mutated tiger shark. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Some demonic beasts had the bloodline of ancient divine beasts and ferocious beasts. They were incomparably powerful and were much stronger than demonic beasts of the same level. Clearly, this tiger shark was a remnant species. Many demonic beasts with powerful bloodlines not only had immense strength, but their demonic power was also incomparably strong. When they reached a certain level, they would awaken the battle skills hidden in their bloodline and possess various magical abilities. Moreover, demonic beasts were different from martial artists. Demonic beasts did not comprehend the concept of heaven and earth like martial artists, but demonic beasts were naturally inclined towards a certain attribute. They were born to be able to master a certain attribute, and as their strength grew, they would become stronger and stronger. This was a talent that the human race could not compare to. Break for me! The long spear swept out, and all the weapons formed by seawater instantly collapsed. A tricolored spear light burst out and shot towards the silver tiger shark's head. Bang! The silver tiger shark was like a cannonball and was sent flying. Along the way, it directly collided with a few powerful tiger sharks and flew for a few thousand meters before stopping. However, it was not dead yet. On its head, there was only a hole that was a few feet deep. Such strong defense, such hard scales. Lu Ming was secretly surprised. After being stabbed by his spear light, it was actually not penetrated. This tiger shark's defense was astonishing. Strong, This human's attack power is too strong. Hurry up and leave. Lu Ming was surprised, but the silver tiger shark was simply terrified. Once it stabilized its body, it hurriedly flew into the distance. "Want to leave? Stay for me." Lu Ming used the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps, and his speed was unbelievably fast. He turned into a stream of light and caught up with the silver tiger shark in a few moves. "Want to kill me? Die." Demonic beasts were originally very vicious. Seeing that the silver tiger shark could not escape, the ferocity in its heart was aroused, and it pounced towards Lu Ming. Whoosh! What welcomed him was an incomparably sharp spear. This time, it was not a spear light, but the tip of the infinite dragon spear's corpse. Puchi! The infinite dragon spear directly pierced into the silver tiger shark's head. The silver tiger shark roared and stopped breathing. Puchi! Lu Ming pulled out the long spear and devoured the silver tiger shark's blood essence. At this moment, Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. Boom! His body was suffused with a bloody light, emitting a powerful fluctuation. His second bloodline was about to evolve. Lu Ming tried his best to suppress the fluctuation of his second bloodline, trying not to attract attention. Lu Ming felt that the strength of his second bloodline was rapidly increasing. Boom! In the end, his second bloodline could not be suppressed anymore. 8 bright silver rings appeared above his head, shining brightly and attracting the attention of many people. Fortunately, when the second bloodline appeared, it had already evolved successfully. The crowd did not see the process of the evolution, only the result. They thought that Lu Ming originally had an 8th level king bloodline. Although an 8th level king bloodline was extremely shocking, no one paid attention to it in this life and death battle. Lu Ming had never used his bloodline in the previous battles, so everyone thought that Lu Ming originally had an 8th level king bloodline. However, there was one exception, and that was Xian Yanqing. Not far away, Xian Yanqing saw the 8 silver chakras on Lu Ming's bloodline and pouted slightly. When this guy first awakened his second bloodline, he was only a 3rd level king. Now he has become an 8th level king, and his bloodline can evolve. This guy is hiding a lot of things from me. Xian Yanqing muttered softly, Kill this girl." At this time, 2 silver-colored tiger sharks charged towards Xian Yanqing. Heavenly Demon Force Field. Destruction cut. Xian Yanqing shouted as she engaged in a fierce battle with the 2 silver tiger sharks. After a few breaths, Lu Ming withdrew his second bloodline and continued to fight. The battle was intense. The sea was blood red, and there were corpses of humans and sea beasts floating on it. There were more than 500,000 martial artists above the martial grandmaster realm on Jinqiao Island, and more than 50,000 experts above the martial king realm. However, there were even more sea beasts. They were densely packed, covering thousands of miles of sea area and attacking fearlessly. Chapter 665. In fact, the longer the battle went on, the more the human side was at a disadvantage. This was because there were more sea beasts at the peak king level than the human side. Among them, there were many powerful descendants. Take the silver tiger shark, for example. Although Lu Ming could kill it, it was a nightmarish existence to other peak kings. I need to kill more peak king level demonic beasts. Otherwise, it will be more and more disadvantageous for the human race. Lu Ming's gaze swept over the battlefield. He didn't need to worry about Xian Yanqing. As long as a Sea of Soul Realm expert didn't appear, Xian Yanqing wouldn't be in danger. Lu Ming took a step forward and disappeared. The next moment, he appeared beside a tiger shark that was a peak-level king. He pierced the tiger shark with his spear and killed it. Then, he took another step forward and attacked the next tiger shark that was a peak-level king. He didn't attack the other tiger sharks, and only targeted the peak king-level tiger sharks. Several hundred miles away, two old men were being completely suppressed by a silver tiger shark. These two old men were also two old monsters in the nearby ocean region. They had lived for several hundred years and were extremely powerful. However, the two of them together weren't a match for this silver tiger shark. In fact, they couldn't even break through the silver tiger shark's defense. The silver tiger shark didn't fear death and continuously attacked the two. Pung! One of the old men was struck by the silver tiger shark's tail and was sent flying over 1,000 meters, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. This kind of descendant is too strong. We're not its match at all. The other old man hurriedly retreated. However, the silver tiger shark crazily chased after him and couldn't escape. Could it be that I'm going to die in the mouth of this beast today? The old man sighed. Although he tried his best to defend, he was still struck by the silver tiger shark until he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. My life is over, the old man said in his heart. However, right at this moment, a figure wearing a black robe and a Shura mask suddenly appeared beside the silver tiger shark. A terrifying spear directly pierced through the silver tiger shark's head. Blood splattered everywhere as the silver tiger shark was killed. After that, this figure slapped the silver tiger shark's wound with his palm, and then his figure flashed and disappeared. The old man was dumbfounded. What a powerful attack! The old man who was sent flying by the silver tiger shark's tail flew over, his eyes filled with admiration. They tried their best, but were unable to break through the silver tiger shark's defense. But this figure, with a single spear strike, killed the silver tiger shark. This attack power was truly terrifying. That person should be a Jura. I heard that he's a young man. The old man behind him spoke, as if he had just woken up from a dream. What a young hero! The old man from before sighed. Let's go and kill those ordinary peak king level tiger sharks. The old man behind said. Then, the two of them charged towards the two ordinary peak king level tiger sharks. The one who made a move to kill the silver tiger shark was naturally Lu Ming. He naturally didn't know what the two elders were thinking. At this moment, his target was the peak king level tiger sharks. In just over 10 minutes, he had already killed 16 peak king level tiger sharks. What a powerful blood essence. It's too strong. The essence blood of 16 peak king level tiger sharks was too rich. The essence blood of demonic beasts was usually richer and stronger than that of humans. Lu Ming continued to refine the blood essence as he continued to hunt. This time, he continued to use the essence blood to upgrade his second bloodline. Just now, when his second bloodline upgraded to the 8th grade king level, the mist on the stone steel seemed to have faded a bit, and the words on the stone steel became clearer. There should be 3 words on the stone steel. The first word was suppress. The third word was steal. Only the second word was still a bit blurry. Lu Ming had a feeling that as long as his second bloodline upgraded to the 9th grade king level, he would be able to see the second word clearly. At that time, he might have an unexpected harvest. Lu Ming continued to kill peak king level demonic beasts while refining the essence blood. On the other side, within the group of blood sharks, a figure wearing a Yama mask was emitting a dazzling golden light. The terrifying golden light flickered as it rampaged through the group of blood sharks. Every time it flickered and a golden sword light flashed, a peak king level blood shark would be killed. 1 sword strike to kill. Similarly, wherever Xian Yanqing passed, sea beasts would be killed, regardless of their level. Lu Ming charged for a while, and more than 20 peak king level tiger sharks had died in his hands. At this time, he killed his way out of the area of the tiger sharks and into the area of the sea lions. among the sea lions, there were also descendants that were extremely powerful, but they were still killed by Lu Ming with one spear strike. Before long, Lu Ming had already devoured the essence blood of more than 30 Peak King level demonic beasts. Splash! At this moment, the sea rolled and rushed to the shore. In the sea, there were countless huge figures circling. They were actually huge sea snakes. Each of them was dozens of meters long, and their bodies were thicker than a water tank. When they opened their mouths, a martial artist would be swallowed. When their bodies coiled, a martial artist would be entangled to death. Deep sea giant snake. It's the deep sea giant snake. Someone exclaimed. What's going on? Another race has appeared. This is too abnormal. How can this be? Watch out. Screams and screams filled the air. Splash! The sea rolled, and everyone saw two huge snakes in the sea. Their bodies were more than 100 meters long, and their powerful auras were extremely shocking. With a swing of their tails, a large number of martial artists were whipped and exploded. Even the Peak King level experts were the same. They had no power to fight back. These two huge deep-sea snakes were both shape-shifted great beasts, with two shape-shifted great beasts equivalent to Sea of Soul realm attacking. The human side was in a one-sided situation. Evil beast, you're courting death. In the air, the Han Dao spirit warrior hadn't made a move yet. At this moment, he shouted coldly and stepped out, walking toward the two shape-shifted great beasts. Xiao! Xiao! Snow-white blade lights flew out. Every time a blade light flew out, a deep-sea giant snake would be killed. When the blade lights flew into the sea water instantly froze and turned into ice. A large number of deep-sea giant snakes were frozen in ice. Peak third level of Sea of Soul realm. One of the huge deep-sea snakes said solemnly, "Since then die." The Han Dao spirit warrior's aura surged as two snow-white blade lights slashed toward the two huge snakes. "Old man, I'm your opponent." The waves behind him rolled, and a huge figure rushed out of the sea. Roar. The roar shook the sky. It was the roar of a dragon. Heavens, that's a flood dragon. Many people's eyes widened as they shouted in disbelief. The huge figure that appeared in the end was actually a blue flood dragon. This flood dragon's body was long and winding, more than 200 meters long. It had 4 claws under its abdomen, and its aura was terrifying. This was a real flood dragon, a living flood dragon with the bloodline of a true dragon. Lu Ming also looked over in shock. This was his first time seeing a living flood dragon. He had seen a dead one once, refined into a demonic corpse by the Sky Corpse sect. Chapter 666. The two waterspouts turned into 2 flood dragons, clashing with the blade light of Han Dao spirit. Both were annihilated. Roar. The flood dragons roared, and their blue, jade-like bodies pounced toward Han Dao spirit. Han Dao spirit had a powerful aura, and the snow-white blade aura danced around him, seemingly freezing the space. An icy saber radiance slashed toward the flood dragon. The flood dragon grabbed the saber light with its claw. Boundless energy surged out, tearing the surrounding sea beasts and human cultivators into pieces. "Let's go up and fight." Han Dao's spirit flew up into the sky, and so did the flood dragons. At their level, fighting on the ground would cause too much of an impact, and it would affect the other humans and beasts. Rumble! Han Dao spirit and the flood dragons fought all the way to the sky. However, the battle in the sea was even more intense. The sea beasts had joined the deep sea giant snake clan, and their battle power had increased greatly, completely suppressing the humans. The deadliest thing was that the deep sea giant snake clan had 2 spiritual sea level beasts. They were so strong that no one could stop them. With a casual twist of their huge bodies, A large number of humans were killed. The two deep-sea giant snakes rampaged among the humans, and no one could stop them. Screams and wails resounded everywhere. Retreat! Retreat! Two Sea of Soul Realm beasts. We can't stop them. Retreat! Someone yelled, not daring to stop them, and frantically retreated. In this way, the humans' defensive formation was completely messed up, and the sea beasts kept rushing into the area where the deep-sea giant snakes were. A large number of warriors were killed. This time, there were too many sea beasts, and they were too strong, surpassing all the previous times. Golden Sand Island can't be saved. We can only retreat to other islands. No, we've been on Golden Sand Island for hundreds of years. We can't leave like this. Hold on and wait for help. There were all kinds of cries, but the morale kept dropping. Spiritual Sea Realm beasts, Lu Ming looked in the direction of the deep-sea giant snakes. Then he stepped into the air and turned into a beam of light flying toward the deep-sea giant snakes. In another direction, a golden sword light was also heading towards the deep-sea giant serpent. The two beams of light were extremely fast. Within a dozen breaths, they had already approached the two Sea of Souls Realm deep-sea snakes. True Dragon Strike! Lu Ming approached and stabbed out with his spear. A tricolored true dragon roared and danced in the air, pouncing towards one of the deep-sea giant snakes. An ant dares to attack me? You're courting death. The deep-sea giant snake snorted and spat out a black water column toward the tricolor true dragon. Boom! With a violent tremor, the water column and the tricolor true dragon both vanished. However, the deep-sea serpent's advance was also blocked. Not far away, a golden sword light also blocked another deep-sea giant snake. It was the king, Yenluo. Lu Ming and the king of hell were each facing a giant snake from the deep sea. The two deep-sea giant snakes should be at the early stage of the first layer of the 6th grade, which was equivalent to the early stage of the first layer of the spiritual sea realm. Previously, in the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Li Xiaoyan, and Gu Huaxiu had joined forces to injure the patriarch of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. The patriarch of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was at the peak of the first level of the spiritual sea realm. During the battle with the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution's ancestor, Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the peak of the 9th layer of the Martial King realm. Now that he had broken through to the peak of the King realm, his battle strength had greatly increased. Ever since he had broken through, he had not fought with his full strength. Now, this deep-sea giant snake was just right. Who is it? Who blocked the deep-sea giant snake? It's the King of Hell and Azura. Are they going to fight the Sea of Souls realm monsters? It's possible. Both of their battle powers are extremely terrifying. If the two of them are able to block the two giant snakes, we will have a chance. Martial King, realm monsters at the spiritual sea realm? Is it possible? Whatever, we can only try. Let's attack and block the other sea beasts with all our strength. The surrounding human martial artists roared and organized their forces to block the other sea beasts. Azura, let's fight. Let's see who can kill this giant snake first. Suddenly, the King of Hell's voice sounded. It was very young, but it was filled with sharpness. All right, let's fight. Lu Ming's battle intent was also extremely high. Previously, the two of them were apprehensive and did not fight. Now, they could decide the winner through another kind of battle. However, when these words fell into the ears of the two giant snakes, they almost exploded in anger. And you want to kill us? Go to hell. In front of Lu Ming, the deep-sea giant snake roared and opened its mouth, trying to devour Lu Ming. In its mouth, the snake's tongue was like a sharp sword, shooting towards Lu Ming. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. The three-colored spear turned into a spear light and pierced towards the giant snake. At the same time, the king of hell and the deep-sea giant snake were also fighting. Clang! The deep-sea giant snake's tongue was like a real sharp sword. When it collided with the spear, the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Swish! At the same time, a snake's tail swept across the void, causing the space to emit a dull sound of air exploding. It whipped towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming took a step, and his figure soared into the sky, dodging the attack of the snake's tail. However, the snake's tail was like an awl attached to a bone. After missing its attack, it continued to whip upwards towards Lu Ming. 9 dragons trampling the sky. A dragon roar sounded, and a terrifying power erupted. Each wave was stronger than the previous one, bombarding the snake's tail. Boom! The snake's tail trembled as if it was enduring an unimaginable power. It kept shaking, and finally, a part of it exploded with a bang. Blood splattered everywhere. The Sea of Soul Realm giant snake is injured. Nearby, other human martial artists saw this and were immediately excited. As if they had seen hope, they roared and charged towards the sea beast. Ant, how dare you injure me? Die, die! The deep-sea giant snake's body curled, and endless seawater turned into sea snakes, pouncing towards Lu Ming. Exploding star fist. The infinite dragon spear disappeared, and Lu Ming executed the exploding star fist. Streams of fist light pierced through the void, blasting downwards. This time, Lu Ming merged 3 states into the exploding star fist. Its speed was faster, and its explosive power was stronger. Boom, boom. It was like endless meteors were falling, clashing with the sea snakes formed by seawater. Amid the rumbling, boundless energy overflowed. Once the martial artists and sea beasts nearby were hit, they died miserably on the spot. Leave. Stay away. At the place where Lu Ming and the giant snake were fighting, the other martial artists and sea beasts had already distanced themselves. On the other side, the battle between Hades and the deep-sea giant snake was about the same. Sword chi was everywhere, and the other martial artists and sea beasts had also distanced themselves. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. His fist energy was getting crazier and more intense. In the end, it was almost impossible to see Lu Ming's fist. Only streams of fist light could be seen pouring down. Awesome! Too awesome! Lu Ming's quintessence was boiling, and his battle intent seemed to be burning. This was his true all-out battle. He did not have any misgivings, and he did not need to suppress his quintessence. He felt that his exploding star fist was getting smoother and smoother. Suddenly, the fist light trembled, and its might seemed to have increased by another level. Chapter 667. The exploding star fist was different from the Dragon God's 3 ultimate techniques. The Dragon God's 3 ultimate techniques was divided into 3 moves. The third move was the Extreme Strike, which had strong penetrating power and impeccable attack power. However, the True Dragon Strike and the 10,000 Dragons Kill were much weaker. On the other hand, the Exploding Star Fist was a pure killing move. Every punch was like a meteor exploding. In terms of explosive power, it was even stronger than the True Dragon Strike. The destructive power of the 5th level of the Exploding Star Fist was not weaker than the True Dragon Strike. Streaks of fist radiance were like true dragon strikes. How terrifying was its power! Bam! Bam! Finally, Lu Ming gained the upper hand and defeated the sea snake formed by the seawater. The powerful fist force landed on the body of the deep sea snake. The fist force landed on the body of the deep sea snake, causing it to roar continuously. However, the body of the deep sea snake was covered with scales and had a terrifying defense. The fist force of the exploding star fist was offset by the sea snake, formed by the seawater. It could only hurt the deep-sea snake, but not hurt it. However, this had already infuriated the deep-sea snake. It roared furiously and soared into the sky, pouncing towards Lu Ming. It opened its mouth, and billowing black gas spread towards Lu Ming. Poison gas. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly retreated. However, when he came into contact with a trace of the poison gas, he immediately felt a burning pain on his skin. The poison gas was rapidly corroding his skin. Devour! Lu Ming controlled the devouring power of the 9 dragons' bloodline. Immediately, the poison gas was devoured by the 9 dragons' bloodline. Second bloodline, explode! After the second bloodline was activated, Lu Ming's strength increased by another level. He threw out hundreds of punches and dispersed the poison gas in front of him. The deep-sea snake's tongue was like a sword. It was wrapped in a layer of black liquid, which greatly increased its power. Whoosh, whoosh. The snake's tongue danced and dispersed Lu Ming's fist force. After Lu Ming threw out hundreds of punches, the infinite dragon spear appeared in his hand. He looked down and pulled out the spear. The long spear became 1,000 meters long and ruthlessly whipped the body of the deep-sea snake. The deep-sea snake hissed, and its body was blasted down. 9 dragons stomping the sky. Lu Ming stepped into the void and took 4 consecutive steps. The violent power continued to bombard the giant snake. Its target was the spot 7 inches below the giant snake's head. Bang! At the spot 7 inches below the giant snake, it suddenly exploded. Scales flew everywhere, and blood splattered everywhere. However, the giant snake's defense was too strong. Most of the power was blocked by its scales. Although a large piece of flesh was blown off, it was only a superficial wound for the giant snake's huge body. However, this superficial wound was enough for Lu Ming. After Lu Ming used the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps, his body fell rapidly. When he was about to reach the giant snake, he launched his strongest attack. Extreme Tao Strike. The spear merged with the body and turned into a resplendent spearlight, stabbing towards the wound of the giant snake. That wound from before was all for this attack. It was a fatal blow. The giant snake seemed to have sensed a fatal threat and spat out a black, poisonous mist at Lu Ming with all its might. This poisonous mist had almost turned into liquid. It was extremely terrifying. Even an ordinary level 5 spiritual weapon would be corroded and melted. Unfortunately, it met Lu Ming. With the protection of the 9 dragons' bloodline, Lu Ming was not afraid of the poisonous gas attack at all. The devouring power enveloped his body. Lu Ming's body rushed past. The resplendent spear light pierced through the giant snake's 7-inch wound and came out from the other side. The 7-inch wound was the snake's vital point. Lu Ming's move directly pierced a big hole in the giant snake's vital point. Hiss, 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 the giant snake's eyes widened. It let out an unwilling roar and fell into the sea. It rolled violently in the sea for a few times before stopping and becoming motionless. A deep-sea giant snake of the spirit sea realm was killed by Lu Ming. At this time, Lu Ming's gaze looked to the other side, the side of King Yama. A dazzling sword light, incomparably sharp, seemed to be able to cut through everything. Puchi, the giant snake's head was almost severed. More than half of its body had been severed, leaving only a small part of its head hanging. The other giant snake was also killed. King Yama's figure appeared. However, some parts of his black robe were torn, revealing the golden robe underneath. He looked a little battered. The speed at which he killed the giant snake was only a few breaths slower than Lu Ming's. At this time, he also looked at Lu Ming. His eyes flickered as he said, "This time, you win. But next time, I won't lose." "Actually, you didn't lose," Lu Ming said. King Yama's strength had also shocked him. Level 2 metal mentality. King Yama's mentality had already reached level 2. As long as he opened his spiritual sea, he would immediately become a sea of soul realm expert. Moreover, King Yama's bloodline martial skill was also extremely powerful. It was even stronger than Shui Gang's bloodline martial skill. King Yama's true battle strength was definitely not weaker than Lu Ming's. Lu Ming was able to kill the giant snake, first, because he was not afraid of the giant snake's poisonous gas attack. A loss is a loss, regardless of the reason. King Yama said calmly. At this moment, the nearby human clan cultivators were first extremely shocked, then extremely excited. 2 Sea of Soul Realm deep sea giant snakes had been killed by King Yama and Shura. A martial king had actually killed a Sea of Soul Realm expert. This was simply unbelievable. In the past, this had only been heard of in legends. However, the warriors who had been to the life battle platform had different thoughts. King Yama and Shura have finally decided a winner. Shura is stronger. This thought flashed through many people's minds. There are still some left. Why don't we continue? Lu Ming looked at the battle in the sky. It was a battle between Sea of Soul Realm experts. Just what I want. King Yama's body emitted a strong battle intent. Shwa, shwa, a ray of sword light, and a ray of spear light shot towards the sky at the same time. Lu Ming and King Yama were going to participate in the battle between Sea of Soul Realm experts. As long as they killed 1 or 2 Sea of Soul Realm great beasts, the scales of victory would tilt towards the human side. Lu Ming did not devour the blood essence of the deep sea giant snake. He had already devoured enough blood essence. At this time, the 9 Dragons bloodline was still slowly being refined. The blood essence of the spiritual sea was too powerful. If he devoured it, Lu Ming would probably not be able to control it and would have to find a place to refine it. He would not be able to continue the battle. In the sky, the great formation was extremely intense. The human warriors and the Sea of Soul Realm great beasts both had advantages. The battle was extremely fierce, and the victor could not be decided for the time being. A blue-robed man was fighting a tiger shark. This tiger shark was at the late stage of the first layer of the spiritual sea realm. It was even stronger than the deep-sea giant snake from before. However, the blue-robed man's cultivation was also not weak. His cultivation was also at the late stage of the first layer of the spiritual sea realm. The blue-robed man and the tiger shark both had injuries on their bodies. Lu Ming's figure flashed and rushed towards the battle between the two. "Haha, little friend, you came at the right time. Help me kill this beast." The blue-robed man saw Lu Ming and immediately laughed excitedly. Just now, he also saw Lu Ming kill the deep-sea giant snake. Chapter 668. Damn it! Seeing Lu Ming charging over, the tiger shark let out a roar and started to panic. "Senior, let's kill this tiger shark together." Lu Ming waved his long spear, and a huge spear light that was 1,000 meters long blasted towards the tiger shark. "Haha, let's kill this beast." The blue-robed man's eyes flashed fiercely. The battle sword in his hand was wider than his palm, and it slashed towards the tiger shark. With Lu Ming and the blue-robed man working together, the tiger shark was immediately at a disadvantage and was completely suppressed. 9 dragons stomping the sky. Lu Ming took 4 steps, and a violent force smashed onto the tiger shark like an immemorial mountain. The tiger shark's body trembled, and below, the blue-robed man's sword light rushed upwards, leaving a 10-meter-long wound on the tiger shark's body. One of its fins was cut off, and it flew far away. The tiger shark roared. In fear, it did not dare to fight anymore, and wanted to escape. "You can't escape." Lu Ming executed the 9 dragons' heaven-ascending steps and his figure flashed continuously, blocking the tiger shark's path of retreat. Both of his fists struck out more than 100 punches consecutively. More than 100 bursting fist gleams blocked the tiger shark's figure and tore open wounds on its body. Although the wounds were not big, the tiger shark was bleeding profusely. Some of the fist lights were even aimed at the tiger shark's wounds, which made the tiger shark's injuries worse. Sky-splitting sword, kill! The blue-robed man arrived, and the terrifying sword light that could tear everything apart cut the tiger shark's body in half. The spiritual sea tiger shark was dead. "Haha, little brother, thank you." The blue-robed man grinned, but his eyes were still flashing fiercely. He was a fierce man. If it was not for Lu Ming's strength that had already gained his recognition, he would not even care about Lu Ming. He would even kill him if he did not like him. But Lu Ming's strength was already on the same level as him, so he naturally restrained his fierceness. "Let's go kill the other spiritual sea beasts." Lu Ming said, "Ha, these beasts don't even think about leaving today." The blue-robed man's face was ferocious. Whoosh, whoosh. On the other side, Hell King and another Sea of Soul Realm warrior had also killed a Sea of Soul Realm beast. In this way, apart from the Flood Dragon, there were only 7 Sea of Soul Realm beasts left. On the human side, other than the Frost Blade Spirit Warrior, there were 9 spiritual Sea Realm warriors, including Lu Ming and Yama. They were also at the spiritual Sea Realm. Of course, there was also Xian Yinqing. The human side had the upper hand in terms of high-end warriors. However, at this moment, a dragon's roar resounded through the heavens and the earth. A figure descended at an extremely fast speed. It was the Frostblade Spirit. The Frostblade Spirit Master spat out a mouthful of blood as his body fell rapidly. Above him, the Flood Dragon roared as its huge body slithered down, chasing after the Frostblade Spirit Master. Whoosh! A ray of blue light shot towards Frostblade Spirit Master. Frostblade Spirit Master slashed out a ray of saber light, barely managing to block the attack. However, the remaining light still landed on his body, causing him to cough up large mouthfuls of blood. Bang! The Frostblade Spirit Master fell into the sea. In the next moment, he rushed out from the other side of the sea. "Oh, bastard, die!" The Flood Dragon pounced towards the Frostblade Spirit Master. Everyone's heart sank. The Frostblade Spirit Master was no match for the Flood Dragon. He was completely suppressed. The Frostblade Spirit Master was at the peak of the 3rd level of the spiritual sea realm, but he was still no match for the Flood Dragon. This Flood Dragon should be at the early stage of the 2nd level of the spiritual sea realm. However, the Flood Dragon's battle power couldn't be calculated according to normal levels. The Flood Dragon contained the bloodline of a true dragon. No matter if it was its physical body or beast power, it was extremely powerful. It also had some powerful battle skills. Although this Flood Dragon was only at the early stage of the 2nd level of the spiritual sea realm, the Frostblade Spirit Master was no match for it. The Flood Dragon pounced towards the Frostblade Spirit Master. He didn't dare to take it head-on, so he turned around and fled crazily. You can't escape. The Flood Dragon twisted its body, and its huge body passed through layers of the void, chasing after the Frostblade Spirit Master at an extremely fast speed. A beam of blue divine light pierced toward Frostblade Spirit Master like a divine sword. The Frostblade Spirit Master was shocked. His body quickly moved, dodging the blue light. At this moment, he was moving in the direction of Lu Ming and the burly man in the blue robe. The Frostblade Spirit Master rushed towards Lu Ming and the blue-robed man. "You guys, help me block this Flood Dragon. Quick!" The Frostblade Spirit Master shouted at Lu Ming and the blue-robed man in a commanding tone. Lu Ming frowned. His and the blue-robed man's battle power was only at the first level of the spiritual sea realm. They were too far away from the flood dragon. They would be courting death if they did that. The Frostblade Spirit Master's purpose was simple. He wanted them to die so that he could have time to escape. How could Lu Ming be so stupid? He would try his best to participate in this battle, but the premise was that he wouldn't be in danger. If there was a fatal danger, he and Xian Yanqing would turn around and leave. To put it bluntly, the people of Golden Sand Island had nothing to do with him. Whether they lived or died, what did it have to do with Lu Ming? He believed that a lot of people at the scene were thinking the same. Now, the Frostblade Spirit Master wanted him to die. How could that be? Lu Ming turned around and flew far away, avoiding the Frostblade Spirit Master and the Flood Dragon. The blue-robed man did the same, flying far away. You too dare to run away and disregard the safety of the human race. You deserve to die. The Frostblade Spirit Master roared, looking at Lu Ming and the blue-robed man with murderous intent in his eyes. Lu Ming sneered, not bothering to pay attention to the Frostblade Spirit Master. Then, the Frostblade Spirit Master rushed towards Hell King. Without a doubt, Hell King and the other expert also turned around and left. The Frostblade Spirit Master roared again and again, almost getting hit by the Flood Dragon's divine light. His eyes turned cold, and he suddenly rushed towards another battlefield. That battlefield was the one between a Sea of Soul Realm expert and a great beast. Old Monster Frostblade, what are you doing? That human Sea of Soul Realm expert roared in fright. The Frostblade Spirit Master rushed over like this, clearly wanting to use him as a shield. The Frostblade Spirit Master's face was cold, and he didn't say a word, rushing forward with all his might. Retreat, retreat. The Sea of Soul Realm expert wanted to leave. Stay here. How could the Sea of Soul Realm great beast let him escape so easily? He launched a frenzied attack, stubbornly holding the opponent back. The Frost Saber Spirit Cultivator charged past the human expert, and behind him was the Flood Dragon. Human ants, go to hell. The Flood Dragon's huge claws grabbed at the Sea of Soul Realm expert. Damn it, Old Monster Frostblade, you're despicable. The Sea of Soul Realm expert roared, crazily erupting with power. He used all his strength, hoping to block the Flood Dragon's attack and escape. But the difference between him and the Flood Dragon was too great. Under the Flood Dragon's claw, his attacks collapsed, and all his defenses were in vain. Pung! He was grabbed by the Flood Dragon's claw, and his bones cracked. Old Monster Frostblade, I curse you to die, without a burial place. The man roared, and his aura rapidly declined. Chapter 669. After this, the Iceblade Spirit Warrior managed to escape even further and rushed towards another battlefield. Not good, damn it. The other Sea of Soul Realm experts saw this scene and had no desire to continue fighting. They madly charged and then turned to run. However, there were also one or two people who were firmly held back by the great beasts and couldn't escape. They could only roar in anger. Iceblade, don't come over. Someone roared, but the Iceblade Spirit Warrior's face darkened as he continued to fly towards that person. Although these Sea of Soul Realm experts couldn't completely block the Flood Dragon, as long as they could block it for a short while, he would be able to escape. Ah, Iceblade, you're despicable. That person cursed. However, the result was the same. When the Iceblade Spirit Warrior rushed over, the Flood Dragon followed closely. That human expert was simply not the Flood Dragon's opponent and was killed in a few moves. Even his corpse was swallowed by the flood dragon. Go! The other Sea of Soul realm warriors who had escaped didn't dare to stay in the air, and directly flew down to join the battle below. Ha ha ha, kill all these humans. Those Sea of Soul realm great beasts also laughed wildly and rushed down to the battlefield below. The battlefield below was in chaos. The addition of Sea of Soul realm experts turned the battlefield into a chaotic battle. Miserable screams rang out continuously as large numbers of martial artists were killed by Sea of Soul realm great beasts. There were also large numbers of sea beasts killed by Sea of Soul realm martial artists. Lu Ming also rushed down to the battlefield below. Run, run! This area was being ravaged by a huge octopus. This octopus was a Sea of Soul realm great beast. The octopus body was like a small mountain. 8 tentacles fluttered in the air. On each tentacle, there were suction cups that had a powerful suction force. With a wave of its 8 tentacles, a large number of human martial artists were sucked in by the suction cups. Then, the suction cups opened like mouths, revealing fangs as they swallowed the human martial artists, chewing them up. Miserable screams rose and fell. And Luo Xian. Lu Ming saw Luo Xian in the crowd. At this moment, she was crazily fleeing with a group of people. Behind them, a huge tentacle swept towards them. Help! The few people who ran to the back were directly sucked in by the suction cups of the tentacles, letting out shrill screams. What should we do? What to do? Am I going to die here? Luo Xian's face was pale, without a trace of blood. She knew that she was in danger today, and might very well die here. Unfortunately, before her dream of making the Flame Trade Union grow stronger could be realized, she was going to die here. She was unwilling, but in the face of such a huge gap in strength, what was the use of being unwilling? A huge tentacle waved towards her. Unable to escape, she closed her eyes in despair. But in the next moment, she heard a loud boom. Then she felt her waist tighten. She was hugged by a strong arm, and a blazing aura kept surging towards her. She opened her eyes in a panic and saw a mask. It was the Azura mask. It's him. Luo Xian's eyes lit up. She realized that she was being hugged by Lu Ming at the waist, and her body was tightly pressed against Lu Ming's strong body. Her heartbeat accelerated, and her face heated up. Lu Ming did not care about this. His eyes were all on the huge octopus in front of him, so strong. This octopus beast should be at the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Lu Ming thought in his heart and retreated rapidly. Just now, he exchanged a blow with one of the octopus tentacles and was no match for it. The other party's strength was too strong. Help! Help! Lu Ming, save me! A loud cry was heard. Lu Ming looked over, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. The one who cried for help was Chen Zhao. He fled frantically, and behind him, a huge octopus tentacle waved towards him. Lu Ming could not be bothered with it, and retreated rapidly. Lu Ming, you watched me die, without saving me. I curse you. I curse you to die, without a complete corpse. Seeing that Lu Ming had no intention of saving him, Chen Zhao cursed loudly. Luo Xian's gaze was also very calm. Chen Zhao asked for all this. He offended Lu Ming like that earlier, so why would Lu Ming save him? The tentacle sucked and sucked Chen Zhao in. Chen Zhao screamed in horror and struggled desperately, but it was no use. The sucker opened and swallowed Chen Zhao. Shua. Lu Ming retreated dozens of miles in an instant before letting go of Luo Xian. Miss Luo Xian, your cultivation is not high. Just stay behind. As soon as Lu Ming finished his words, his figure moved, and he dashed in another direction. There, Xian Yanqing was fighting a huge eel. This eel was also one of the Spirit Sea great beasts. Its whole body was covered in lightning, and it was extremely powerful. Its cultivation should be at the middle first layer of the Spirit Sea realm. However, Xian Yanqing's battle strength was also extremely powerful, and he actually had a slight advantage. Lu Ming stepped on the air and arrived at this area in a short while. A bright, spear-light shot towards the eel. "It's you!" The eel saw Lu Ming and was shocked, and it hurriedly retreated. It had seen Lu Ming kill a deep-sea giant snake just now. It already felt that it was no match for Xian Yanqing. If Lu Ming joined the fray, it would be doomed. It would be strange if it did not run away. Roar. In the sky, dragon roars sounded out. After killing 2 Spirit Sea realm experts, the flood dragon continued to chase after Frostblade Spirit Warrior. "Old man, I'll kill you today. You can't escape." The flood dragon roared, and its voice shook heaven and earth. Frostblade Spirit Warrior ran for his life, and he actually flew towards the battlefield below. "Run!" The martial artists below were scared out of their wits, and they all scattered to escape. "This old man is too despicable." Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a cold light. He and Xia Nianqing flew back together. Xiao. Right at this moment, in the distant sky, a scarlet sword light pierced through the void and shot towards the flood dragon. The flood dragon caught it with its claw, and it clashed with the sword light. With a loud sound, the sword light disappeared, but the flood dragon's body was also blocked. Seeing this sword light, Frostblade Spirit Warrior was overjoyed, and he laughed loudly. Red old man, you're finally here. Too slow." Xiao. Another scarlet sword light slashed towards the flood dragon. Along with the appearance of the sword light, 6 or 7 figures appeared in the distance. The one in the lead was an old man in a red robe, and his aura was extremely powerful. Pung! A divine light shot out from one of the flood dragon's horns, blocking the sword light. Shwa! Shwa! With a series of sonic booms, 7 figures appeared in the sky above the battlefield. 7 silhouettes, each of them emitting a powerful aura. They were all powerful Sea of Souls realm warriors. Cold Blade Old Monster. I went to ask Green Xian for help. That's why I'm a bit late. The old man in red robe grinned. Green Xian is also here. Chapter 670. Of course. Let's go. Old Monster Hong Chi yelled. Beside him, 5 of the Sea of Souls realm warriors flew down to the battlefield, while he and Old Monster Lu Xian flew toward the flood dragon. Together with the Ice Blade Spirit Warrior, they surrounded the flood dragon. Old Monster Hong Chi and Old Monster Lu Xian's cultivation were the same as the Ice Blade Spirit Warriors, peak 3rd level Sea of Souls realm. A flood dragon. Its entire body is full of treasures. Let's kill it and divide it among the 3 of us. Greed flashed through Old Monster Hong Chi's eyes. All right, let's go. The Ice Blade Spirit Warrior yelled. Boom, boom, boom. 3 horrifying auras shot up into the sky. At the same time, 2 sword lights and a green bead attacked the flood dragon. The flood dragon roared and charged forward. Ha ha! Our reinforcements have arrived. Kill these bastards. A lot of human warriors yelled. This time, 7 Sea of Souls realm warriors had arrived. 2 of them were dealing with the flood dragon, while the other 5 joined the battlefield, turning the situation around instantly. In terms of high-end battle power, the human race had completely taken the upper hand. Not only were all the Sea of Souls realm beasts blocked, but the human side also had extra Sea of Souls realm warriors who were constantly killing the sea beasts. On the ocean, countless corpses floated. There were both human and beast corpses. So much essence blood. During this time, Lu Ming had devoured a lot of essence blood. Most of it was from Peak King warriors. After the battle started, Lu Ming had already devoured more than 50 of them. He could feel that his 9-dragon bloodline was almost full, and he really wanted to find a place to refine it. But right now, he could only slowly refine it while fighting. Up until now, the human race had suffered countless casualties, but they still had the upper hand. With the addition of Sea of Souls realm warriors, they were able to kill a lot of sea beasts. Retreat! Retreat! Finally, the sea beasts were scared. A Sea of Souls realm beast yelled and gathered all the sea beasts to retreat into the ocean. In terms of high-end battle power, the human race had already taken the upper hand. If they continued to fight, the sea beasts would be wiped out sooner or later. Lord Flood Dragon, this is all we can help you with. A huge octopus opened its mouth and gathered all the sea beasts to retreat into the ocean. Clank! Waves swept out, and the seawater became 1,000-meter-tall waves. Countless aquatic beasts hid within the waves and disappeared without a trace. Once a sea beast entered the sea and focused on escaping, it would be very difficult for martial artists to chase after it. Roar! In the sky, the flood dragon roared continuously. It was besieged by 3 experts at the peak of the 3rd layer of the spiritual ocean realm and was completely at a disadvantage. In just a short while, a few wounds appeared on the flood dragon's body. Its scales were torn and blood flowed out. Kill! Kill this flood dragon! Some martial artists roared. However, even though the flood dragon was clearly no match for him, he still refused to retreat. Blue divine light burst out of the flood dragon's body, attacking Frostblade and the other 2. At the same time, the flood dragon's body kept shrinking. After a few breaths, a middle-aged man wearing blue armor appeared in the sky. He held a halberd in his hand. With a wave of his halberd, he forced the Ice Blade Spirit Cultivator back. The armored man was none other than the Flood Dragon. Whoosh! The Flood Dragon forced Frostsaber's Spirit Master to retreat, then turned into a beam of light and shot toward the depths of Jinshao Island. Chase! The Ice Blade Spirit Cultivator, Old Monster Hongqi, and Old Monster Lu Xian all chased after the Flood Dragon and disappeared into the sky. At this time, countless sea beasts had already retreated into the sea and escaped. Countless corpses were left on the surface of the sea. Ah, that tiger shark is mine. That's mine. Countless martial artists flew on the surface of the sea, putting the sea beast corpses into their storage rings. Many parts of these sea beasts were precious materials that could be used to refine weapons, pills, and so on. They were very valuable. Of course, these martial artists were tempted. Go away. That's mine. Some people roared, and a great battle even broke out. Lu Ming's figure flashed, and he appeared in front of a giant deep-sea snake. Go away. A Peak King didn't even look and directly slashed at Lu Ming. However, when he saw Lu Ming's appearance, he almost peed himself and hurriedly withdrew his blade. Shura! He screamed. You want to die? Lu Ming said coldly. No, it's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. This giant deep-sea snake is yours. That Peak King laughed shakily and hurriedly turned to leave. Kid, go away. You can take the corpse of a Sea of Soul realm beast, even if you don't die. A man in his 30s with a tall nose flew over. This was a Spirit Sea realm expert. He was part of the group of experts who had rushed over to help. He did not see Lu Ming killing the Spirit Sea realm big demon, and merely thought that Lu Ming was an ordinary Peak King. Before he arrived, a powerful aura pressed down on Lu Ming. Lu Ming frowned and appeared on top of the giant deep-sea snake. He placed his hand on the snake's wound and sucked, devouring the 9 drops of essence blood. Then his figure flashed, and he left this place. His goal was the essence blood of the giant deep-sea snake. As for the corpse, although it was precious, he didn't care much for it. Moreover, he needed to refine the essence blood and didn't want to have a conflict with others. Seeing that Lu Ming did not touch the deep-sea giant snake, the burly man with a high nose swept a cold glance at Lu Ming. He then waved his hand and put the deep-sea giant snake's huge body into his storage ring. Boom, boom. The essence blood of a sea of soul realm beast was too terrifying. Once it entered the 9 dragons' bloodline, it was like a volcano erupting, constantly attacking the 9 dragons' bloodline and making rumbling sounds. He had wanted to devour more essence blood, but it seemed impossible now. "Little Qing, let's go. I need you to guard me," Lu Ming called out. He needed to find a place to refine the essence blood. Xian Yinqing nodded and flew toward the city with Lu Ming. Boom. But at this moment, an earth-shattering sound came from the depths of Jinsha Island. Then, everyone saw a beam of 7-colored divine light shoot up into the sky. Although they were far away, they could still feel the extraordinary majesty of the divine light. Rumble! The entire Jinsha Island began to tremble slightly. Boom! The rainbow-colored divine light became even more resplendent. It dispersed the clouds and soared to an unknown height in the sky. What's going on? What's that 7-colored light beam? Is it related to that flood dragon? Is it possible? This beast tide is very abnormal. I suspect that it was organized by that flood dragon. It must have a purpose. The warriors present looked at the 7-colored divine light in a daze. Some people whispered. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing were also shocked. They stood in the void and watched. The 7-colored divine light became more and more dazzling. The light completely outshone the sun in the sky. Suddenly, after a violent rumble, the 7-colored divine light disappeared. However, an island appeared where the 7-colored divine light was. Chapter 671. A floating island was emitting a resplendent 7-colored radiance. It was dazzling and radiant as it floated in the air. Roar! A dragon's roar resounded before silence ensued. It was obvious that the dragon's roar had come from the flood dragon. 7-colored island. Could that be the legendary 7-colored island? A white-haired old man suddenly exclaimed. What? 7-colored island? You mean 7-colored Taoist 7-colored island? Someone's eyes widened in disbelief. That's right, it's extremely similar to 7-colored Taoist 7-colored island. Heavens, it can't be true, right? 7-colored Taoist was a legendary 7th grade true inscription master. Moreover, he was a peerless expert in the spirit embryo realm. Legend has it that when he died 800 years ago, his 7-colored island disappeared without a trace. If this really is 7-colored Taoist 7-colored island, then how many treasures would there be? The scene was in an uproar as countless people's eyes revealed a blazing light. Only when one's cultivation reached the spirit embryo realm could one be called a Taoist. Normally, Sea of Souls realm warriors were called spirit cultivators, just like Ice Blade spirit cultivators, but they were rarely used. Spirit embryo realm cultivators were called Taoists. Spirit god realm cultivators were called venerables. 7-colored Taoist was a spirit embryo realm expert. However, this wasn't his most famous point. His most famous point was that he was a 7th grade true inscription master. This was a terrifying identity. True inscription masters were extremely rare. Whether it was their identity or status, they were no small matter. A 7th grade true inscription master status was comparable to a peerless expert in the spirit god realm. Back then, 7-colored Taoist had practically dominated the chaotic astral ocean. Even some super-large regions knew his name. 7-colored Taoist's most famous treasure was 7-colored island. It was an island and also a plane. Moreover, it was a treasure that could enter the void and wander there. After Seven-Colored Taoist's death, everyone thought that Seven-Colored Island had entered the void and would never appear again. But now it had appeared. Whoosh, whoosh. The Sea of Soul realm experts present were the first to react. They transformed into streaks of rainbow light and flew towards Seven-Colored Island. Seven-Colored Island. It's definitely Seven-Colored Island. Let's go. Countless martial artists transformed into streaks of light and flew towards Seven-Colored Island. The figures on the shore instantly disappeared. Looks like a treasure has appeared. Lu Ming muttered. He had never heard of the Seven-Colored Spiritual Master's name before, but seeing how excited he was, he knew that he was extraordinary. But now, refining the essence blood was more important. As for the treasures, he could only wait. Let's return to the city first. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing flew back to the city. They randomly found a room and rushed in. Xia Nianqing stood guard outside the room for Lu Ming. With a thought, Lu Ming appeared in the Temple of Paragon. He sat down cross-legged and started to refine the essence blood of more than 50 peak king warriors, and the essence blood of a Sea of Souls realm deep sea snake. The power of this essence blood was too powerful. Lu Ming began refining with all his might. Everyone's essence blood surged toward the second bloodline. The second bloodline appeared above Lu Ming's head. It had 8 silver chakras. 7 of them were extremely bright, while the 8th was slightly dimmer. Clouds swirled around the stone tablet, but at the very front, the clouds were very faint. One could clearly see 2 words, suppress and tablet. There was another word in the middle, but it was blocked and could not be seen clearly. At this moment, as Lu Ming continued to refine the essence blood surged into the second bloodline. The 8th chakra of the second bloodline also became brighter. 2 hours later, the 8th chakra was as bright as the other chakras. Lu Ming continued to refine the essence blood. 10,000 miles away from the city, a bright sphere floated in the air. This sphere was about 100 miles in diameter. This was Seven-Colored Island. It was completely enveloped by a layer of circular light, and the situation inside couldn't be seen clearly outside the sphere. There were more than 100,000 martial artists surrounding it. The Seven-Colored Island is protected by the inscription battle. Only peak kings can break through the light screen and rush in. We can't enter at all. Damn it! There's a treasure mountain in front of us, but we can only stare at it. What bad luck! There's nothing we can do. Who told us to be so weak? Even peak kings and Sea of Soul realm experts have rushed in. Someone else is coming. A beam of light streaked through the void and appeared at the edge of the Seven-Colored Island. It was a red-robed man. If Lu Ming were here, he would definitely recognize this red-robed man as the Cloud Sea Pill Institution's old ancestor. He didn't appear in the previous battle, but he appeared now. Ha! That battle actually drew out the Seven-Colored Island. Such an opportunity can't be missed. The Cloud Sea Pill Institution's old ancestor chuckled and waved his palm, breaking through the light screen. His figure flashed and rushed in. Then, the light screen closed. Who is that person? He didn't appear in the previous battle, but appeared when he saw the treasure. How shameless! Someone snorted unhappily. I don't know. He's probably a new expert. Someone shook his head. Time flew by, and soon more than 10 hours had passed. Lu Ming had been refining the essence blood. He had already refined more than half of the essence blood that had been devoured. On his second bloodline, 8 silver chakras shone brightly. In the blink of an eye, another 2 hours had passed. Buzz. Suddenly, another silver chakra appeared on top of the 8 chakras. The 9th chakra, 9th grade king realm. Lu Ming's second bloodline had advanced to the 9th grade king realm, becoming the highest grade of king realm bloodline. The next step would be the divine bloodline. However, it would be too difficult for the 9th grade king realm bloodline to reach the divine bloodline. Lu Ming wasn't confident. Buzz. When the second bloodline advanced to the 9th grade king realm, the steel trembled slightly. The mist surrounding the steel slowly faded, and the word in the middle became clearer. Finally, it could be seen clearly. Prison. The word in the middle meant prison. Suppressing prison steel. Just as Lu Ming could see the 3 words, they suddenly shone brightly. Lu Ming felt as if he had come to an endless land. The land was desolate, and there were no stars, flowers, trees, or any living things. It was dead silent. On the dead land, a steel stood tall. The steel was extremely tall, and it pierced through the sky. On the steel, Lu Ming saw 3 words, suppressing prison steel. Boom. Lu Ming suddenly felt an explosion in his mind. A message rushed into his mind. At this moment, the scene changed. Lu Ming was still in the Temple of Paragon, and the words suppressing hell monument on the stone tablet dimmed and no longer glowed. It seemed like nothing had happened, but Lu Ming realized that there was indeed a message in his mind. Suppressing prison heaven skill. A martial skill appeared in his mind. It was related to the suppressing prison steel. Is this a bloodline martial skill? Chapter 672. He had always envied others for being able to comprehend their own bloodline martial techniques. He did not expect a martial technique to appear in his mind as soon as his suppressing prison steel bloodline was promoted to 9th level king class. However, now was not the time to comprehend martial techniques. There was still a part of the blood essence in the 9 dragon bloodline that had not been refined. The 9th chakra of the suppressing prison steel bloodline had appeared. Lu Ming was not in a hurry to upgrade the suppressing prison steel bloodline. Instead, he gave the rest of the blood essence to the 9 dragon bloodline. It took him a day to refine everyone's blood essence. However, the 9 dragon bloodline was not promoted to 9th level king class. It still did not have enough blood essence. Phew! Lu Ming exhaled. He got up and walked out of the Temple of Paragon and out of the room. Lu Ming, you are too slow. It has been a day. I can feel a strong spiritual herb aura from the Rainbow Island. There must be a large amount of spiritual herbs on the Rainbow Island. If you don't go now, it will all be taken by others. As soon as Lu Ming walked out of the room, Dandan, who was lying on Xian Yanqing's shoulder, shouted, "A large amount of spiritual herbs." Lu Ming's eyes lit up. There were many places where he could use spiritual herbs. He would not let go of them. There is no doubt about it. There must be a lot of spiritual herbs. Dandan jumped onto Lu Ming's shoulder, and its eyes lit up. Let's go now. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing flew into the air and flew towards the Rainbow Island. They soon arrived at the Rainbow Island. There were fewer people around the Rainbow Island now. Many martial artists left when they saw that they could not enter the island. However, there were still a few who stayed, hoping for a miracle. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing's arrival did not attract much attention. Now that they had returned to their original appearances and had taken off their masks, no one knew that they were the famous Azura and Yeksha. The island, which was more than 100 miles in diameter, was suspended in the air. It was shrouded in a bright light. "Brother, why aren't you going in?" Lu Ming pulled a young man aside and asked curiously, "Did you just come from outside? This place is protected by the inscription array. At the very least, one would need the battle prowess of a Peak King to break through this light screen and enter." The young man casually glanced at Lu Ming and did not pay much attention to him. Lu Ming looked 5 or 6 years younger than him. He didn't think that Lu Ming could break in. Oh, so that means those Peak King level martial artists and above have all entered? However, this Rainbow Island only had a diameter of about 100 miles. With so many experts entering, wouldn't they have already dug 3 feet into the ground? It's already been a day. Why haven't they come out yet? Lu Ming was a little curious. This was also something that he was curious about. I don't know either. If you have the ability, go in and take a look yourself. The young man looked at Lu Ming with a mocking expression. However, Lu Ming nodded and said, "Yes, I can only go in and take a look." Then Lu Ming casually threw a punch, and the light screen was broken. Lu Ming took a step forward and walked in. Xian Yanqing stretched out her slender hand and pressed down. The light screen was also broken, and Xian Yanqing's figure disappeared. The young man was dumbfounded and stood there in a daze. Heaven and earth spun. Lu Ming discovered that he was in the air and was falling rapidly. He hurriedly circulated his true essence and hovered in the air. Xian Yanqing appeared not far away from him. Lu Ming stood in the air and looked into the distance in a daze. The world was vast, and there were mountains and dangerous peaks. Lu Ming looked over and could see at least a few hundred miles. There was no end to the world. It was more than 100 miles. It was simply boundless. Lu Ming, this Rainbow Island looks like it's only 100 miles from the outside, but there's another world inside. I reckon that it's a small plain with a very large area. Xian Yanqing said. Lu Ming nodded. This Rainbow Island was really strange. Moreover, the mountains here were also very strange. They were divided into different colors with distinct layers. Some of the mountain peaks were filled with fiery red plants. Some of the mountain peaks were filled with golden plants. Some of them were blue, and some of them were purple. There were a total of 7 colors. No wonder it was called the Rainbow Island. Moreover, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth here was extremely rich. There are spiritual herbs. I can smell the scent of spiritual herbs. Dandan lifted its 2 short legs and ran forward. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing followed. Dandan stopped on a mountain peak. The mountain peak was full of potholes, and there were still remnants of medicinal fragrance. Obviously, there were indeed spiritual herbs, but they had been dug up. They came to a few nearby mountains, and there were traces of excavation everywhere. The Rainbow Spiritual Master was a 7th-level true inscription alchemist back then. He was probably an expert in alchemy, so it was normal for him to grow many spiritual herbs. Look, I told you we were late. All the spiritual herbs have been dug up. Dandan said, unhappily, "Let's go. Stop muttering. This island is very big, and no one has left yet. It means that this island hasn't been completely excavated. If we rush over now, we'll be in a hurry." Lu Ming grabbed Dandan and placed it on his shoulder. He turned into a stream of light and rushed forward. Along the way, they didn't see anyone. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing didn't stop and flew all the way. Soon, the 2 of them flew for a distance of 100,000 kilometers. They didn't know how many mountains and rivers they had passed. In the end, the 2 of them saw people, but they were already corpses. It was obvious that there was a big battle over the spiritual herbs. Boom! Suddenly, the sound of a big battle came from ahead. Then, they saw a few streams of light flying towards a mountain range. "Let's go. There's a 6th-level spiritual herb in the valley ahead. The 3 of us will work together and snatch the spiritual herb. We'll split it equally." The 3 figures disappeared in the blink of an eye. In the mountain range ahead, the rumbling sounds became more and more intense. A 6th-level spiritual herb. "Kill it! Lu Ming, charge!" Dandon's eyes lit up when it heard that there was a 6th-level spiritual herb. It kept waving its little claws. Lu Ming's eyes also lit up. A 6th-level spiritual herb was rare. He flew forward with Xian Yinqing. In front of them, there was a huge canyon in the mountains. Inside, there were flashes of light constantly. There were also violent rumbling sounds and angry roars. The two of them rushed in without hesitation. There were more than 10 people fighting, and they were all peak-tier kings. On a cliff in the canyon, there were 3 purple spiritual herbs. Purple grass, a 6th-level spiritual herb. After consuming it, it could purify one's true yuan and strengthen one's cultivation. More than 10 peak-tier kings were fighting in a chaotic battle. Lu Ming stepped out and walked towards the purple grass. "Kid, get out of my way. The purple grass is mine." A brawny man's eyes flickered with a ferocious light as he clawed at Lu Ming. "You're the one getting out." Lu Ming threw a punch with the back of his hand. A burst of fist aura blasted out. The burly man's claws made cracking sounds, and his bones broke. He screamed, and his body flew out like a cannonball. He crashed heavily into the stone wall on one side of the canyon, directly smashing a huge deep hole in the wall. The brawny man was trapped in the deep hole. He was already breathing out more than he was breathing in. Chapter 673. They were well aware of the strength of that burly man. In the previous battle, that burly man was vaguely the strongest among them. However, Lu Ming had beaten him half to death with a casual punch. Lu Ming's battle strength was too terrifying. Shura, he's Shura. I've seen that kind of fist technique before. Suddenly, an old man exclaimed and looked at Lu Ming with fear. "What? Shura, it's him?" "It should be him. With such battle strength at such a young age, it's very likely that he's Shura. He's just taken off his mask." The other peak kings exclaimed and looked at Lu Ming in shock. If he was really Shura, they knew that they could forget about getting this spiritual herb. Shura had killed a deep-sea serpent by himself in the previous battle with the sea beasts. His battle strength was terrifying to the extreme. It wouldn't take much effort for him to kill them. "I'll take this zing grass." Lu Ming glanced at these people and said calmly, "It's all right, it's all right. Since little brother has taken a fancy to it, you can have it," the old man said with a face full of smiles. Lu Ming's face was calm as he strode toward the zing grass. Whoosh! Just as Lu Ming was about to approach the zing grass, a blade-like cut through the void and slashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming frowned and quickly retreated, dodging the blade light. A burly man in his 30s walked over step by step in the air with his hands behind his back. His body emitted an aura that was as deep as the sea. Sea of Soul Realm. This was a Sea of Soul Realm martial artist. "It's him?" Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Lu Ming recognized this burly man. This burly man was one of the experts who had rushed over to help. The corpse of the deep-sea serpent that Lu Ming had killed was also taken away by this person. Do you think a mere martial king, like you can get your hands on a grade 6 spiritual herb? You must be dreaming. The burly man stood in the air with his hands behind his back, looking down at Lu Ming and the others with a superior appearance. The faces of the dozen or so peak kings turned unsightly. Since Senior has taken a fancy to it, we naturally wouldn't dare to compete with Senior. We'll take our leave now. The old man cupped his fists respectfully before turning around to leave. Whoosh! The burly man waved his hand, and a blade light slashed towards the old man. The old man's expression changed greatly, and he hurriedly dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding the saber light. Of course, this was also because the burly man had held back. Otherwise, with the old man's cultivation, he definitely would not have been able to avoid it. "Senior, what do you mean by this?" The old man's expression was extremely ugly. Although he looked older than the burly man, in the world of martial arts, the strong were respected. Therefore, age was not the only thing that mattered. Besides, the other party was a spirit sea realm cultivator, who knew how old he was on the surface. What do you mean? Hand over your storage rings. Like I said, level 6 spiritual herbs are not something you can take. The muscular man's indifferent voice rang out. What? You want us to hand over our storage rings? The expressions of the more than 10 peak-tier kings changed dramatically. They weren't fools. If they handed over their storage rings, how could they take them back? What? You're not going to hand it over? If you don't hand them over, then you can stay here forever. The burly man's expression darkened, and a wisp of killing intent flashed in his eyes. The expressions of the peak-tier kings changed drastically, and they were incomparably ugly. The storage rings contained all their belongings. If they handed it over, how could they cultivate in the future? Involuntarily, a few of them looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's expressions were calm from the beginning to the end. The burly man shifted his gaze to Lu Ming, then to Xian Yanqing, and a trace of evil fire flashed in his eyes. Kid, you're very calm. Let's start with you. Hurry up and hand over your storage rings. The burly man shouted. Scram! Lu Ming only replied with one word. The burly man was stunned, and he stared blankly at Lu Ming. He suspected that he had misheard. Lu Ming actually told him to scram? A martial king and actually told him to scram? He simply thought that he was hallucinating. Kid, what did you say? What did you just say? The burly man couldn't help but ask twice. I'll give you 3 breaths of time to scram. If you don't scram, you can stay here forever. Lu Ming said indifferently, Ha ha ha. Kid, little bastard, you told me to scram? Are you crazy? The burly man laughed crazily, as if he had never encountered such a funny thing in his life. 3. Lu Ming coldly started counting. You're courting death, you know? But I'll make you beg for death. The burly man's body emitted an intense killing intent. 2. Lu Ming continued. The burly man's face turned completely gloomy. He realized that Lu Ming didn't seem to be joking at all, but was serious. But a 20-year-old kid, a peak martial king, how could he tell a sea of soul realm expert to scram? Where did his confidence come from? The other peak-tier kings were also dumbfounded. Even if they guessed that Lu Ming might be an Azura, seeing a peak-tier king threaten a sea of soul realm expert like this with their own eyes was simply like a dream. 1. Lu Ming counted to 1. With a flicker, Xian Yanqing's figure appeared behind the burly man, blocking his path of retreat with Lu Ming in front and behind. 2 little bastards. I'd like to see what kind of ability you have to be so arrogant in front of me. Today, I'll make you suffer a life and death dilemma. The burly man's face revealed a sinister expression, and his killing intent became even denser. Nonsense! Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and he suddenly punched out. This punch almost pierced through space, emitting a deafening rumble. The burly man's face suddenly changed. He realized that this punch could pose a threat to him. A battle blade appeared in his hand. Just as he was about to slash out and scatter Lu Ming's fistlight, his body suddenly sank as if a 10,000-meter-tall mountain was pressing down on him. He almost fell to the ground. Behind him, Xian Yanqing lightly pressed down with one hand, displaying the sky demon force field. Damn it! The burly man discovered that his body was as heavy as a mountain. Not only had his movements slowed down, even the circulation of Zhen Yuan in his body had slowed down. It was as if every muscle in his body was pressing down on a mountain. Exploding star fist. Bang! Bang! In an instant, Lu Ming punched out hundreds of times. Hundreds of frightening fist lights bombarded the burly man. That aura was too frightening. Destruction cut, Xia Nianqing whispered, and the destructive power suddenly erupted. The burly man's body violently shook, and the destructive power almost cut him in two. However, Lu Ming's exploding star fist had already arrived. No, spare me. At this moment, the burly man was scared. He was really scared. With his cultivation in the middle stage of the first layer of the spiritual sea realm under the joint attack of Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, it was almost impossible for him to resist. He felt that death was approaching. However, before he could finish his words, he was drowned by hundreds of fist auras. Again, Lu Ming punched out hundreds of times, and then another hundreds of times, and hundreds of fist lights bombarded the burly man. Chapter 674. The other peak-tier kings stared at the area with their eyes wide open. Soon, the light completely dissipated. There was nothing there. No, to be precise, there was only a blood mist floating in the air and a storage ring. Hiss! The peak-tier kings sucked in cold breaths. Dead. An almighty at the middle stage of the first level of the spiritual sea realm died, just like that, under the joint efforts of Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Not even his corpse was left behind. They already knew that the Azura and Yiksha were both very strong. However, after seeing this scene, the dozen or so peak kings were still shocked to the extreme. Too strong. Peak-tier kings were actually this strong? The two joined hands and complemented each other. It was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. Lu Ming reached out and sucked the storage ring into his hand. However, he was still somewhat depressed. The attack just now was too fierce. The blood essence of the man was directly annihilated, not leaving anything behind. Lu Ming lamented in his heart. This was the blood essence of a Sea of Soul realm expert. After Lu Ming refined it, his 9 dragons bloodline would probably rise to the 9th grade of King Realm. Lu Ming inwardly warned himself to not attack so fiercely in the future. You can leave. Immediately, Lu Ming glanced at the peak-tier kings. All right. Many thanks, young master. Many thanks, young lady. The dozen or so peak kings hurriedly nodded and bowed to express their gratitude before leaving. If not for Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, their belongings would definitely be gone. After the peak-tier kings left, Lu Ming dug out the 3 stalks of ziying grass. Little Qing, how about we divide the things we get from this 7-colored island? Lu Ming waved the storage ring of the man and said, I'm fine with anything. Xian Yanqing said, Anything? How come you're so easy to talk to now? You were very clear with me before. Could it be? Lu Ming pretended to be surprised. He stroked his chin and carefully looked at Xian Yanqing. What are you looking at? Pervert, what are you thinking? Xian Yanqing blushed and glared fiercely at Lu Ming. I get it. We're a family. There's no need to be so calculative. Lu Ming chuckled. Who is your family? Dream on. No, that guy's storage ring belongs to me. Xian Yanqing's eyes widened, and he sucked in his true essence, sucking the storage ring from Lu Ming's hand. No way, I also contributed. I have a share too. Lu Ming wailed. Who asked you to offend me? Serves him right. Xian Yanqing glared fiercely at Lu Ming again. Then he turned around with a smile in his eyes. Lu Ming was speechless. This was the storage ring of a Sea of Soul realm expert. It was gone just like that. Lu Ming's heart ached so much that he wanted to die. He hurriedly put away the 3 stalks of ziying grass. Otherwise, they would fall into Xia Nianqing's evil hands again. Hey, you guys split up. What about me? Don't forget about me. Dandan shouted. Go away. Lu Ming glanced at Dandan unhappily. Kid, what's with your attitude? I'm not done with you. Give me the spiritual herbs. Give me the spiritual herbs. If you don't give it to me, I'll bite you. As Dandin bared its fangs, the 2 men and 1 turtle left the canyon and continued to advance towards the depths of the Rainbow Island. From here on, they could occasionally meet other martial artists, and the spiritual herbs slowly increased. The Rainbow Taoist was using the Rainbow Island as a medicinal field. There were spiritual herbs everywhere. The Rainbow Taoist had fallen for 800 years, and the Rainbow Island had also disappeared for 800 years. Naturally, there were a lot of spiritual herbs here. Spiritual herbs could be seen on every mountain peak. Most of them were 4th grade, 5th grade, and even 6th grade ones could be seen occasionally. 6th grade spiritual herbs were very useful even for Sea of Soul realm experts. How precious were they? Naturally, it would lead to many fights and battles. However, with Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's cultivation base, they were naturally unstoppable. No one was their match. Along the way, there were also some blind people who wanted to rob them. In the end, their essence blood fell into the 9 dragons' bloodline's mouth. After a day, the 2 had a bountiful harvest. They each obtained more than 300 stalks of 5th grade spiritual herbs and a dozen or so 6th grade spiritual herbs. Even Dandin had a bountiful harvest, putting them all into its mouth. Ah, run! Suddenly, a few peak-tier kings flew out from a mountain peak in fright. Swish! Swish! Next, Lu Ming saw that mountain peak shine. Beams of sword chi shot out, killing the peak-tier kings in the air. Great inscription array. Lu Ming's gaze focused on that mountain peak. Lu Ming saw the great inscription array operating. Kid, I can sense that there are great inscription arrays everywhere ahead. It's quite dangerous. Dandin looked ahead and said in a low voice. Lu Ming gazed ahead. The spirit fire in his sea of consciousness was throbbing. He also had the same feeling. He felt that there were great inscription arrays and killing intent everywhere ahead. I reckon we're almost at the core. Otherwise, how could there be such a great inscription array? Xian Yanqing said. Lu Ming nodded and said, let's go down. We'll be more careful. Next, the 2 slowed down a lot. They focused their minds and carefully sensed. Lu Ming's spirit fire was throbbing. His perception of great inscription arrays was very accurate. He wouldn't rashly step into places with great inscription arrays. Buzz. In a valley, a raging fire suddenly burned. A few martial artists screamed and turned into ashes. The 2 walked for thousands of miles and saw 5 groups of people die under the great inscription arrays. Dangers were accompanied by opportunities. Here, there were more spiritual herbs than other places, especially the 6th grade spiritual herbs. The proportion was very high. Suddenly, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stopped and looked ahead. In front of them, a large mountain range had collapsed. The ground was full of potholes and pits. Obviously, there had been a great battle here. The area within 100 miles was a mess. To be able to leave such traces, their battle strength must be terrifying. Was it caused by the dragon and several experts in the 3rd layer of the spiritual sea realm? Lu Ming thought. The 2 patrolled the sky above this land. There's a corpse over there. No, it's half a corpse. Xian Yanqing looked down. The 2 of them landed on the ground, and indeed, they saw half a corpse. Only the lower half was left, and the upper half was missing. It's that old monster Lu Xian. Lu Ming's eyes focused. It seems that this is really the battlefield of the dragon and several old monsters. Xian Yanqing said in a low voice, Old monster Lu Xian, Han Dao, and old monster Hong Qi chased the dragon together. They must have chased in and fought. However, it seemed that old monster Lu Xian had died in the battle. Only half a corpse was left. They may have gone ahead. The dragon led the army of sea beasts to attack the Golden Sand Island. It's probably for the colorful island. What does the dragon want? Why did it rush here without caring about its own safety? Lu Ming frowned and guessed. Lu Ming, look, there seems to be a palace in front of us. Xia Nianqing suddenly pointed ahead. Chapter 675. Could that be the place where seven-colored spiritual master cultivates, in seclusion? Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. Seven-colored spiritual master was a strong practitioner of the spirit embryo realm and a seventh-level true inscription master. How terrifying was he? How many treasures would there be in his seclusion? Lu Ming's heart palpitated with eagerness. Let's go, kid, let's go. I can already feel the calling of the treasure. Let's go. Dandan cried out. Its eyes were wide open and sparkling with luster. Let's go. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing didn't stop and continued forward. After a few hundred miles, their speed gradually slowed down. Although the palace was clearer from there were more and more inscription formations here, and they were more and more concentrated. If one wasn't careful, they would step into the inscription formations. Along the way, they saw quite a number of corpses. As they continued forward, it became even more dangerous. There were formations everywhere. Don't worry. With me here, what's an inscription formation carved by a mere seventh-level inscription master? Just you wait. Dandan jumped down from Lu Ming's shoulder and sprinted in the air with its two short legs. It looked left and right, sometimes deep in thought, sometimes looking at the landscape. After a while, Dandan flew back to Lu Ming's shoulder and said, "First, fly 3 miles to the right and land on that mound. Then, fly 5 miles forward and continue." Dandan began to give directions. "Hey, Dandan, is this reliable? This is a matter of life and death." Lu Ming looked at Dandan worriedly. "Nonsense, who am I? I am the head of the top 10 war beasts and have seen thousands of formations. What's this kind of formation? If I wasn't injured, this kind of childish plaything would be broken with a wave of my hand." Dandan said arrogantly. Lu Ming was speechless. He didn't really trust Dandan. This guy always dropped the ball at crucial moments. However, he was only a third-level inscription master, and the inscriptions he had mastered were only third-level inscriptions. His understanding of the inscription array was not enough. This was an array set up by a seventh-level inscription master, and he really could not see through it. We can only trust this guy now. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and followed Dandan's instructions with Xia Nianqing. They first flew 3 miles to the right, and then 5 miles forward. More than 10 minutes later, inscriptions suddenly flashed on an ordinary-looking small mountain. A few resplendent sword lights condensed and slashed towards Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing. "Nest, nest, I misjudged. Run!" Dandan yelled and ran away madly. She was faster than anyone else. Fuck! Lu Ming was cursing in his heart. He swept out his long spear and retreated quickly. Xia Nianqing also displayed the Sky Demon Force Field to block the sword lights. Puff! Xia Nianqing's Sky Demon Force Field was almost split in half in an instant. "Be careful!" Lu Ming shouted. The spear light surged and swept towards the 3 sword lights. At the same time, he pulled Xia Nianqing's little hand and retreated crazily. Bang! Bang! After a few roars, the spear light exploded. Lu Ming was blasted back several miles by a huge force before he could stand firm. Lu Ming felt the blood in his body surging. He almost vomited blood. His eyes were burning with anger. He looked at Dandan and gritted his teeth. "Is this the level of your top 10 beasts? Do you want to kill us?" Cough, cough. "Lu Ming, calm down. Don't get too excited. I made a mistake and misjudged you. It won't happen again." I won't. Dandan also felt a little embarrassed and coughed a few times. Lu Ming was really speechless. This guy was really unreliable. But now, he could only rely on him. Lu Ming secretly swore in his heart that he must raise his inscription level as soon as possible. Otherwise, it would be too dangerous to rely on this guy. Dandan ran to the front again and observed carefully. After a while, he ran back and said confidently, "Don't worry, there will be no mistakes this time. Go ahead boldly." "I don't believe you," Lu Ming muttered in his heart. This time, he and Xian Yanqing were even more cautious. Boom! A small lake suddenly exploded, and the blade light violently slashed out. Next, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing turned around and ran. This time, they were much more careful. As soon as something was wrong, they turned around and ran. "You old turtle, you're deliberately tricking me." Lu Ming was furious. Cough, cough. "Young man, calm down. It's not good to be angry at such a young age. Look at that girl. How calm is she?" Dandan said, awkwardly. "Lu Ming, I want to roast this little turtle," Xian Yanqing said coldly. Dandan's body trembled and ran forward. "Let me observe again. This time, there won't be any mistakes." Just like that, they stumbled forward. The further they went, the closer they were to the palace. However, the number of inscription formations also increased. A few hundred miles ahead of Lu Ming and the others, there were two figures. One of them was the patriarch of the Cloud Sea Pill Institution, Yun Luo. The other was a middle-aged man who only had the cultivation of a peak-tier king. At this moment, the middle-aged man's face was pale. "Senior, it's too dangerous ahead. If you let me scout ahead, I'll only die." "Oh, if you don't scout ahead, you'll die now. Choose for yourself," Yun Luo said coldly. The middle-aged man's face became even paler. He originally had 3 companions, but they were captured by Yun Luo to scout ahead for him. His other 3 companions had died because they were scouting ahead. Now it was his turn. "Why aren't you going forward? If you scout ahead, there's still a chance of survival. We'll reach the palace soon. Perhaps after passing through this section, there won't be any more danger. You might still live. If you don't move, I'll kill you now." Yun Luo's voice was cold. The middle-aged man's expression changed. In the end, he gritted his teeth and carefully flew forward. The formation here was very strange. Only by moving through the gaps could one be unharmed. Otherwise, even flying through the air might trigger the formation. Moreover, there was even a formation in the air. The methods of a 7th grade true inscription refinement master were already unfathomable. The middle-aged man focused his mind and made several turns here and there. After traveling for more than 10 miles, he did not encounter any problems. Just as he let out a sigh of relief, inscriptions flashed in the air. A battle sword formed and split the middle-aged man in half. "Damn it, useless trash," Yun Luo roared. Now that the last person to scout ahead for him was dead, how was he going to enter? Even if his cultivation was strong and he could directly charge through some of the formations, there were still some that could kill him. He didn't dare to take the risk. Just as he was hesitating, a few figures appeared behind him and headed in his direction. Yun Luo turned around. When he saw who it was, his eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. It was Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. When Yun Luo saw Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing naturally saw Yun Luo as well. "Yun Luo, it's you?" Lu Ming was slightly taken aback. It was a little beyond his expectations. He didn't see Yun Luo when he was fighting the sea beasts, but now he saw Yun Luo here. Chapter 676. "Ha ha! You 2 little bastards, you came at the right time. Be obedient and lead the way for me." Yun Luo laughed loudly, his face ferocious. It was because of Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing that he was besieged by the 4 young experts and lost an arm. Originally, he was about to break through to the 2nd layer of the spiritual sea realm, but because of losing an arm, his vitality was greatly damaged. Not only was his cultivation hard to break through, but it was also declining. Now, his cultivation could barely maintain at the peak of the 1st layer of the spiritual sea realm. After losing an arm, his battle power had decreased a little. His hatred for Lu Ming and the others could not be washed away even by the Yellow River. Lead the way for you? Yun Luo, you are dreaming. Why don't you lead the way yourself? Lu Ming glanced at the middle-aged man's body and sneered. Compared to the battle with Yun Luo, his and Xian Yanqing's battle power had greatly increased. Now, how could they be afraid of Yun Luo? But Yun Luo did not know that he was defeated because he was besieged by the 4 young experts. Now, there was only Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. He was confident that he could suppress Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. You don't want to lead the way? If you don't, I will kill you right now. Yun Luo said coldly, "This is what I want to say to you. Last time, you ran away. This time, stay." Lu Ming's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he strode forward. Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming walked side by side toward Yun Luo. "You are looking for death." Yun Luo roared and waved his arm. 2 flame rings appeared, suppressing Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Boom! Lu Ming's long spear expanded, surrounded by the 3-colored conception. He threw out a spear, colliding with the 2 flame rings. With a boom, the 2 rings were blown back by Lu Ming. Yun Luo's expression changed greatly as he exclaimed, "How can you be so strong?" "Sky Demon Force Field, Destruction Slice, Kill!" Xian Yanqing shouted. She pushed her jade-like hand forward, and a powerful heavenly demon force field enveloped Yun Luo. Destructive and cutting power crazily erupted. Not good. Yun Luo's expression changed again. She kept waving her hand and unleashing her full power. Rings of fire appeared one after another, blocking the cutting power coming from all directions. Explosions rang out incessantly as sparks flew in all directions. Whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming's long spear shook, and immediately dozens of spear lights shot towards Yun Luo. Under Xian Yanqing's intentional control, the heavenly demon force field had no effect on Lu Ming's attack. Bang, bang. Under the joint attack of Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming, Yun Luo was completely at a disadvantage. How is that possible? How could this be? How could these 2 little bastards become so strong? Damn it! Yun Luo was horrified and tried his best to resist. However, his combat strength was not as good as before. He was no match for Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing at all. He was completely suppressed. After a while, 2 more wounds appeared on his body. They were caused by the destruction slice. If he hadn't dodged in time, he would have been cut in half. Go, go. I will die if this continues. Yun Luo frantically retreated, but he was shrouded by the heavenly demon force field, and his speed was much slower. No matter how much he retreated, Xian Yanqing would immediately move forward and surround him. Whoosh! His neck was slashed by the spear light, and a bloody wound appeared. It almost pierced through his throat. Ah! He screamed. He was really afraid that he would die here. More and more wounds appeared on his body. "Spare me, please spare me. I can give you 10 million supreme-grade spirit crystals. How about that?" Yun Luo shouted. However, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's attacks became even more violent. 20 million. I will give you 20 million. Please spare me. Yun Luo shouted. Bang, bang. What responded to him was Lu Ming's footwork. Lu Ming took large strides forward, getting closer and closer to Yun Luo. His attacks became more and more violent. As long as we kill you, your wealth will be ours. Why do we need you to give it to us? Lu Ming's voice was laced with sarcasm. Whoosh! As soon as his voice fell, Lu Ming turned into a spear light and shot out. Extreme Dao Strike. Puchi. The spear light pierced through Yun Luo's heart. Yun Luo roared, his voice full of unwillingness. If he knew that he would end up like this, he wouldn't have come to the Rainbow Island this time. The result of coming here was death. Bang! Lu Ming's long spear shook. Yun Luo was dead. He reached out and devoured Yun Luo's blood essence. As soon as Yun Luo's blood essence entered the 9 dragons' bloodline, there was a violent roar. The energy was too terrifying, and Lu Ming had to refine it immediately. Shaoqing, I will cultivate for a while. Guard me. Having said that, Lu Ming sat down with his legs crossed and focused on refining the blood essence. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming curiously. She didn't understand why Lu Ming wanted to cultivate all of a sudden. It took him half a day to refine all of Yun Luo's blood essence. Roar. The 9 dragons' bloodline emerged and roared. Above the 8 dazzling chakras, a chakra suddenly emerged. The 9th silver chakra, a 9th grade king-class bloodline. Xian Yanqing's eyes widened, and her mouth was slightly agape, revealing a look of disbelief. Bloodline upgrade. This guy can upgrade his bloodline. No wonder this guy is so abnormal. Every time I improve my strength, I can't surpass him. Xian Yanqing's beautiful eyes flickered. The light of the 9th chakra was dimmer than the other 8 chakras. This was because it had not reached its peak. After a while, the 9 dragons' bloodline disappeared into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming opened his eyes. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw a beautiful face in front of him. She was staring at him without blinking. She was only a few inches away from his face. Lu Ming could even feel Xian Yanqing's breathing. Lu Ming was shocked and said, "What are you doing? Are you trying to take advantage of me while I'm cultivating?" Take advantage of you? You wish. Xian Yanqing curled her lips and then looked at Lu Ming curiously. She said, "Your bloodline can upgrade." How wonderful. Lu Ming looked calm and was not surprised. When he was cultivating, he didn't intend to avoid Xian Yanqing. In fact, even if he did, Xian Yanqing would have guessed something. After all, he and Xian Yanqing had known each other for a few years. Xian Yanqing was very clear about the grade of his bloodline. Now that his bloodline had upgraded, Xian Yanqing must have been wondering about it. My first bloodline has an ability to devour the blood essence of humans and beasts to upgrade its grade, Lu Ming said without hiding anything. However, he didn't mention the name of his first bloodline. It was not that he didn't trust Xian Yanqing. On the contrary, he trusted Xian Yanqing very much. However, this matter was too serious. If something were to happen, not only him, but Xian Yanqing would be in danger too. It has such a wonderful ability. How wonderful! Xian Yanqing's eyes flickered as she exclaimed. I've only told you about it. I hope you won't tell anyone else. Otherwise, I'll be captured and used for research. Lu Ming said. You've only told me? Chapter 677. Of course, I didn't even tell my parents. Lu Ming said. Hee, I'm the only one you told. Xian Yanqing's face revealed a bright smile. Her eyes were full of smiles as she said, Then you'll have to listen to me obediently in the future. Otherwise, Xian Yanqing revealed a pair of beautiful canine teeth as he chuckled, looking very pleased with himself. Listen to you? Sure. Lu Ming walked towards Xian Yanqing with a smile. Really? Xian Yanqing's eyes lit up. Whoosh! Lu Ming suddenly hugged Xian Yanqing by the waist and slapped Xian Yanqing's perky buttocks. He laughed and said, Fake. How dare you threaten me? I'll spank you. Xian Yanqing was stunned for a moment. Then, her little face turned red. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws, shouting, Lu Ming, how dare you hit me, hit me? I'm not done with you. Tisk, it's not the first time. It feels better than before. It's more flexible than before. Lu Ming muttered. Xia Nianqing screamed. Her true essence burst forth and escaped from Lu Ming's evil clutches. Her silver teeth creaked as she glared at Lu Ming. However, her face was red. Even the tips of her ears were red. It added a little girl's shyness and made her even more beautiful. Little Qing, you're so beautiful, Lu Ming said subconsciously. Xia Nianqing blinked her big eyes, and her face turned even redder. Suddenly, her face revealed a bright smile and said, Humph, you have good taste. I'll let you go this time. That works? Isn't that a little too fast? Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Nest, I can't stand it anymore. How dare you talk about love in front of me? Damn it, damn it. I must marry 3,000 concubines. I'll anger you to death, anger you to death. Dandan mumbled to himself as he ran to the front to observe the formation. Lu Ming was a little amused. Then he looked at Xian Yanqing and said, Little Qing, what about you? Are you hiding a lot of secrets from me? What secrets do I have? Xian Yanqing blinked. No. For example, I've met your elder sister before. Lu Ming asked. At the mention of this, Xian Yanqing's face immediately darkened, and he didn't say anything. After a while, Xian Yanqing said, It's not that I want to hide it from you, but now is not the time to tell you. Now is not the time to talk about it. Why? Lu Ming was puzzled. It's very simple. It's because your cultivation is too weak. When you're strong enough, I'll naturally tell you. After Xian Yanqing finished speaking, he stopped talking. Strength? It seems that little Qing's background is really not that simple. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Since Xia Nianqing didn't want to talk about it now, Lu Ming didn't continue to ask. Dandan carefully checked the inscriptions. After a while, he continued to guide Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. The two continued to move forward. A few hours later, they finally passed through the layers of inscription formations and came to a mountain peak. On the mountain peak stood a palace. There should be no inscription formations in front of us. We can go straight to the peak. Dandan said. Although Dandan said, so Lu Ming still didn't dare to be careless. He carefully went to the peak. At the peak of the mountain, there stood a huge palace, which was golden and magnificent. In front of the palace, there was a huge square. The square was completely paved with white jade, which was extremely luxurious. As soon as Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing arrived at the peak, they stopped and looked very dignified. Frostblade Spirit, Old Monster Hongqi, and the Flood Dragon. Lu Ming stared at the white jade square with a surprised look. Frostblade Spirit, Old Monster Hongqi, and the Flood Dragon were all in the square. However, both sides seemed to be in trouble. On the white jade square, inscriptions were densely packed and black. They were like small black snakes swimming around, forming an inscription formation. Both Frostblade Spirit and Old Monster Hongqi were covered with inscriptions. The black inscriptions were constantly drilling into their bodies. The two of them stood in the square and were trying their best to resist. However, they couldn't move their bodies. On the other side of the square, the Flood Dragon was facing the same situation. It was now in its human form, standing in the square. There were also countless inscriptions drilling into its body from all directions. What a wonderful inscription formation. The inscriptions seemed to be alive. Lu Ming stared at the inscriptions on the white jade square with amazement in his eyes. On the square, Frostblade Spirit and the others also saw Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Surprise flashed through the eyes of Cold Blade Spirit Warrior and Red Old Monster. They did not expect that there would be other people who had made it here. Moreover, it was such a young man and woman. Judging from their cultivation, they were only peak king warriors. In the next moment, ecstasy flashed in Frostblade Spirit's eyes. In the depths of his ecstasy, there was a trace of coldness as he yelled, "You too, you came at the right time. Right now, the Flood Dragon is trapped by the inscription formation and can't move. Go and kill it now. No, little brother, you go alone. Leave that girl alive." Lu Ming sneered and said, "Senior, that Flood Dragon is too strong. I'm afraid I can't kill it." "Why can't you kill it? It's trapped and can't move. If it moves, it will be killed by the inscription formation. Why can't you kill it by attacking its vitals?" Frostblade Spirit yelled. "How about this? If the two of us attack the Flood Dragon together, we will have a better chance." Lu Ming pointed at Xian Yinqing and said, "No, that girl has other things to do. Hurry up and do it. Don't miss this opportunity." Frostblade Spirit yelled. "No, Senior, I still don't think I can do it alone." Lu Ming said, "Nonsense. Kid, you should know who I am. I'm Frostblade Spirit. Now, I order you to kill that Flood Dragon immediately." Now, Frostblade Spirit's face darkened as he said in a commanding tone. Lu Ming sneered. This old guy finally couldn't hold back and showed his true colors. Lu Ming sneered and said, "Although I'm not talented, I still have some understanding of the inscription formation. This formation is very mysterious. If I attack the Flood Dragon, even if I can kill it, I will be trapped in the formation. With my cultivation, only death will await me if I fall into the formation. You want me to do it alone and leave my friend here, so that she can help you break the formation around the square." Frostblade Spirit's face became gloomier. He didn't expect that Lu Ming could see through his thoughts at such a young age. Yes, that was his plan. "Little guy, you're quite smart, but do you have any other choice now? If you don't do as I say, both of you will die when I come out. I advise you to do as I say. That girl can still live, and you can die a quick death." Frostblade Spirit sneered and showed his ferocious face. "Really? We don't have any other choice. How come?" "We can take a detour from the side. Enter the main hall, obtain the treasures inside, and then swagger out. Isn't this a better choice?" Lu Ming said with a smile. "Junior, how dare you? If you dare, I swear I'll make you wish you were dead." Chapter 678. Lu Ming sneered. This Han Dao Spirit Warrior was really shameless. When he was fighting with the Flood Dragon, he didn't care about the lives of others. He let others block the Flood Dragon for him while he ran away. In fact, with the strength of the Iceblade Spirit Warrior, if he risked his life, it would not be a problem for him to hold off the Flood Dragon for a while until Old Monster Hongqi and the others arrived. However, he would not do that. He would rather let others sacrifice their lives so that he could protect himself as much as possible. Now, he wanted to do the same thing again. He wanted Lu Ming to kill the Flood Dragon with his life. After killing the Flood Dragon, he would ask Xian Yinqing to attack the formation base. Did he think others were fools? If they didn't agree, he would threaten them. Was the third tier of the spiritual sea realm that great? "Old man, I have a shortcoming. I hate it when people threaten me. The more they threaten me, the more I will go against them. As I said before, I happen to know some inscriptions. This formation has been engraved for a long time, so its power has decreased greatly. The energy of the spirit crystals in some places has been used up. It seems that I need to replenish some spirit crystals." Lu Ming said lightly, "Little bastard, how dare you?" The Han Dao Spirit Warrior's face was cold. "Why wouldn't I dare? You are nothing in my eyes." Lu Ming curled his lips and flew to the edge of the square. There were some potholes on the edge of the square. That was the formation base. There were many supreme grade spirit crystals inlaid on it, but some of the spirit crystals were broken and had lost their spirituality. There was no energy left. Lu Ming pointed at a pothole and moved his finger. The useless spirit crystals in the pothole flew out. A perfect supreme grade spirit crystal appeared in Lu Ming's hand. He waved his hand, and the supreme grade spirit crystal was inlaid into the pothole. The inscriptions around the pothole brightened a little. "Stop it! Stop it!" The Han Dao spirit warrior roared. "Stop! Sure, kneel down and beg me." Lu Ming turned his head and smiled at the frost saber spirit cultivator. "Kneel down and beg you? Little bastard, who do you think you are? How dare you ask me to kneel down and beg you?" The Han Dao spirit warrior was stunned for a moment and then roared, "Forget it if you don't want to kneel." Lu Ming's fingers kept moving. He took out the useless supreme spiritual crystals one by one and put in the intact supreme spiritual crystals. He was very fast. Soon, Lu Ming had put in hundreds of supreme spiritual crystals. The inscriptions on the formation grew brighter and brighter, and its power grew stronger and stronger. "Little bastard, if I don't kill you, I swear I'm not human." The Frostblade Spirit Master's killing intent was bone-chilling. He hated Lu Ming to the bone. Roar! At this moment, the Flood Dragon let out an earth-shattering roar and stepped toward the edge of the square. As soon as it moved, the inscription formation began to operate crazily. Countless inscriptions seemed to have come to life and turned into swords and sabers that slashed at the Flood Dragon. The Flood Dragon roared, and a halberd appeared in his hand. He swung it around to block the attacks from all directions. Clearly, the Flood Dragon was very decisive. It knew that, if it continued, the situation would become more and more disadvantageous for it. It wanted to charge out of the array, with its life on the line. Boom! Boom! The sabers and swords formed by the inscription formation were extremely powerful, and there seemed to be no end to them. They kept slashing at the Flood Dragon. Puff! Even though the Flood Dragon's defense was amazing, it was still cut open by the sharp swords, and blood flowed out. However, the Flood Dragon ignored it and rushed out crazily. Every time it took a step, the white jade ground would rumble. Countless inscriptions covered the Flood Dragon and eventually turned into flames, wrapping the Flood Dragon in them. Roar! With a shocking roar, the Flood Dragon turned into its original form, which was only a dozen meters long. Its body shot out rays of blue divine light, and the halberd slashed horizontally. Even so, every time the Flood Dragon stepped a meter forward, there would be an additional wound on its body. At the same time, it had to face the burning flames. No wonder it's a Flood Dragon. What a strong physical body! Lu Ming exclaimed. In the face of such an attack, a human martial artist might not be able to withstand it. However, the Flood Dragon withstood it and kept rushing out. It was getting closer and closer to the outside of the formation. Damn it! Cold Saber Spirit Master and Old Monster Hongqi were anxious. If the Flood Dragon went out first, the treasures in the hall would fall into its hands. Shaoqing, let's go into the hall first. Lu Ming's face also changed. If the Flood Dragon came out, they would not be its match. The two of them rushed along the side of the square and were about to rush to the hall. Stop! The Flood Dragon roared, and its two dragon horns emitted a bright light. Two rays of blue divine light, like two extremely sharp swords, shot through the inscription formation and shot toward Lu Ming and Old Monster Hongqi. Lu Ming blocked it with the infinite dragon spear. The huge force made Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing retreat rapidly. Buzz! The infinite dragon spear kept vibrating in his hand. Fortunately, it was a level 6 upper spiritual weapon. If it were a level 5 spiritual weapon, it would have been shattered. The flood dragon roared and rushed out crazily without caring about its injuries. Its speed was greatly increased. In just a few breaths, the flood dragon rushed out of the inscription formation, but in exchange, it was covered with wounds. There were at least dozens of wounds on the flood dragon's body. Its dragon scales were torn, and its flesh was badly mutilated. Some of the wounds exposed its snow-white bones. Even the bones were cut open. However, the flood dragon's body was too strong, and its vitality was terrifying. With such serious injuries, its breath was a little weak, but it did not fall down. It glanced at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, but did not attack. Instead, it rushed into the hall. This flood dragon is in such a hurry to rush to the hall. There must be great treasures inside. Let's go in and have a look, Lu Ming said to Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing also nodded. Although the flood dragon was powerful, it was too injured to maintain its peak combat strength. If the flood dragon attacked them, the two of them were confident to escape together. That was why they dared to follow it. The two of them followed the flood dragon and rushed into the hall. Damn it, little bastard. The Frost Blade spiritual master roared. They did not dare to rush in like the flood dragon. They did not have a strong body like the flood dragon. Whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the flood dragon rushed into the hall one after another. The hall was very spacious. As soon as they rushed in, Lu Ming felt a huge pressure. Even his 9 dragons bloodline was agitated. Lu Ming's spine was filled with red light. Lu Ming looked at the center of the hall in shock. There was a mass of blood floating there. On the surface of the blood, there were small true dragons swimming constantly. A huge pressure spread out. This pressure was like the pressure of the ancestor of all beasts and the king of all kings. It was terrifying and could subdue everything. A true dragon, the blood of a true dragon. Before Lu Ming spoke, Dandan on his shoulder shouted first. The blood of a true dragon. Yes, this mass of blood was the blood of a true dragon. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were shocked. They never expected that there would be a mass of blood of a true dragon in the Rainbow Spiritual Master's palace. Moreover, this mass of blood seemed to have just flowed out of a true dragon and had spirituality. Chapter 679. What was a true dragon? It was a supreme divine beast. It had been extinct in the eastern wilderness for many years. Lu Ming had once obtained a true dragon's phalanx. However, the phalanx's spirituality had almost completely dissipated after so many years. There was not much essence left. However, this true dragon's blood had completely preserved its spirituality and essence. Its value was incomparable. It was no wonder that the flood dragon was willing to risk its life to rush into the palace. The temptation of a real dragon's blood was too strong for a flood dragon. If a flood dragon swallowed the blood, it would undergo a shocking transformation. Its future potential was limitless. Edited by Lifer. Fingerfox, it seemed that the flood dragon was after this true dragon's blood when the sea beasts attacked the island. He wondered how the flood dragon knew that there was true dragon's blood on the Rainbow Island. I want to eat it. I want to eat this true dragon's blood. Dandan's eyes widened as it screamed. It ran toward the true dragon's blood with its 2 legs. At this moment, Lu Ming's 9 dragons bloodline also appeared. He let out a loud roar, feeling an incomparable desire. Roar. The flood dragon roared, and its body grew rapidly. It whipped its tail on Dandan's body and sent Dandan flying. Ah, you little worm. How dare you whip me? I'm not done with you. Dandin screamed and slammed into the wall of the main hall, creating a dent in the wall and embedding herself in it. "Little worm, you're dead. You're dead. Ouch. My old waist." Dandin's cursing voice could be heard. Lu Ming was relieved. He knew that the flood dragon's defense was amazing. He would not be hurt so easily. Roar! After sending Dandin flying, the flood dragon pounced on the true dragon's blood. "Stop it!" Lu Ming strode forward, his long spear expanding and attacking the flood dragon. Heavenly Demon Force Field. Xian Yanqing pressed her hand, and the Heavenly Demon Force Field exploded, enveloping the flood dragon. Scram! A loud roar came from the flood dragon's mouth as a gigantic halberd flew out and collided with Lu Ming's gigantic spear chi, destroying Lu Ming's spear chi in one fell swoop. Immediately after, the flood dragon's gigantic body shook violently. Xian Yanqing's complexion changed, and he was forced to retreat. The flood dragon was really too strong. Although its level was only at the early stage of the second layer of the spiritual sea realm, it could suppress the peak of the third layer of the spiritual sea realm, Frostblade Spirit Practitioner, and battle with 3 powerful third layer spiritual sea realm experts. Even that old monster, Lu Xian, might have been killed by the flood dragon. Although the flood dragon was heavily injured, and its battle prowess was greatly reduced, its strength was definitely not weaker than the peak of the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. It was not something that Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing could rival. After pushing back, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, the flood dragon flew forward, opened its mouth wide, and swallowed the dragon blood in one gulp. Roar! After swallowing the dragon blood, the flood dragon let out an excited roar that shook the sky. A layer of bloody light spread out from the flood dragon's body, and the injuries on its body began to heal at a visible speed. The dragon blood's effect was indeed amazing, especially for the flood dragon. It took effect so quickly. Not only that, but the flood dragon's aura was also rising rapidly. "Go, let's get out of here quickly." Lu Ming's expression was solemn. Since they could not get the true dragon blood, they had to leave quickly. If they waited until the flood dragon's injuries were healed, it would be too late for them to leave. Bang! Dandin flew out from the wall and landed on Lu Ming's shoulder, still cursing. "Who is it? Who are you? Get out, get out." At this moment, the flood dragon suddenly roared crazily. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were a little stunned. Was this directed at them? But it didn't look like it. "Lu Ming, look, the flood dragon's eyes are not right," Xian Yanqing said. Lu Ming looked at the flood dragon's eyes and saw that in addition to excitement and ecstasy, there was also fear and horror in the flood dragon's eyes. "Get out! Get out! Get out of my body!" The flood dragon roared, and its huge body rolled in the hall. "Ha ha ha! I've waited for 800 years, and finally a flood dragon has appeared. You're asking me to get out. How is that possible? Lend your body to this old man." An old voice came out from the flood dragon's body. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were extremely shocked. What was going on? "It's fake. You deliberately left clues outside and left this cloud of true dragon blood. It's all fake." The flood dragon roared crazily. "Ha ha ha! I didn't wait for 800 years in vain. I will finally return to the world." The old voice laughed loudly once again. A layer of blood mist spread out from the flood dragon's head, which looked very strange. 7-colored spiritual master. That's the 7-colored spiritual master. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he thought of a possibility. But how was that possible? The 7-colored spiritual master was only in the spirit embryo realm. So how could he have survived until now? And from the looks of it, he was going to take over the flood dragon's body. Good move, good move. That 7-colored spiritual master is a 7th level true inscription refiner. He fused his consciousness into the fire of consciousness, and then used the blood of a true dragon to seal the fire of consciousness. That's how he could survive for 800 years. As long as the flood dragon swallows the dragon blood, when the dragon blood flows through the flood dragon's body, he will be able to destroy the flood dragon's soul and take over its body. Dandon's eyes flashed as it spoke. Ha! I didn't expect a little turtle to have some knowledge. The old voice came out. Get out, get out. The flood dragon kept shouting. What are you shouting for? It's your honor to have your body used by me. In the future, I will make your name resound in the world. The old voice sneered. Kill me now. As long as you kill me, it's useless for this old man to take over my body. I'd rather die than let my body become a puppet. The flood dragon suddenly looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. Juniors, how dare you? How dare you ruin my plan? I will make sure you die, without a burial ground. The seven-colored spiritual master shouted coldly. Hurry up, I can't hold on any longer. If this old man completely takes over my body, he will definitely kill you to silence you. He won't let this secret be known by others. The flood dragon roared. His eyes kept flashing, and his speech was no longer smooth. He seemed to be unable to hold on any longer. His soul was about to be destroyed. The soul of a demonic beast was originally weaker than that of a human. Lu Ming, let's attack. This flood dragon is right. If the seven-colored spiritual master succeeds, he will definitely not let us go. Xian Yinqing said, All right, let's do it. Lu Ming's gaze was resolute. He made up his mind and prepared to attack. Roar. The flood dragon let out a shocking roar. It actually stretched out a sharp claw and clawed at its own chest. What are you doing? The seven-colored spiritual master roared. He seemed to be fighting with the flood dragon for control of his body, causing the claw to weaken. However, the scales on the flood dragon's chest were still scratched off and blood flowed out. Attack here. This is the vital point. Chapter 680. Attack. Lu Ming roared as he stepped forward and stabbed his spear at the flood dragon's vital point. Don't even think about it. Now die. A purple figure appeared on top of the flood dragon's head. This figure was completely condensed from the spiritual fire. The purple spiritual fire represented a level 7 inscription master. It looked like an old man, but his face was extremely gloomy. With a wave of his hand, inscriptions flew out. Buzz. At that instant, lines of inscriptions were emitted from the palace, emitting a brilliant glow. Whoosh! A battle sword flew out and slashed at Lu Ming's spear. Lu Ming's body shook, and he quickly retreated. Countless inscriptions shone in the hall, enveloping Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. The seven-colored Taoist had long inscribed an inscription array in the hall. He seemed to have prepared to kill anyone who entered the hall 800 years ago. Die! The seven-colored Taoist shouted coldly. He waved his hands and countless inscriptions flew out. In the hall, the inscriptions shone brighter. Black inscriptions wriggled like small snakes. Sky Demon Force Field. Xian Yinqing used the Sky Demon Force Field to envelop himself and Lu Ming. He used the Sky Demon Force Field to resist the inscription array around them. Sure enough, under the Sky Demon Force Field, the inscriptions slowed down. Let's retreat. Since they couldn't kill him, they could only retreat. You want to leave? I say, no one can leave today. The seven-colored Taoist sneered. He waved his hands, and the inscriptions around him became even more terrifying. They formed a battle sword and slashed at Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. These arrays had been around for 800 years, but they were still as powerful as ever. Although the two tried their best to resist, they were still completely suppressed. They were surrounded by danger, and we're in extreme danger. Damn it. Do you really think I'm a decoration? Watch me. Dandin opened its mouth and spat out 3 jade tokens. It kept one for itself, and the other 2 flew toward Xian Yinqing and Lu Ming. What is this? Lu Ming asked. The shadow-shifting talisman can move anywhere. Even in this inscription formation, you can come and go freely. It took me a lot of effort to refine this talisman. Crush it quickly and kill that flood dragon. Dandin shouted. In this situation, he could only trust Dandin. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing received the jade talismans and crushed them. Immediately, a curtain of light enveloped Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing. Dandin also crushed a piece, and a similar light screen enveloped him. Whoosh! Dandin dashed out like a phantom. The inscriptions had no effect on it. How wonderful! Lu Ming's heart stirred, and he dashed out as well. True enough, when his figure passed by, it was like a phantom. Those inscriptions actually passed through his body and did not have any effect at all. Shadow-shifting talisman. How did you get the shadow-shifting talisman? This ancient talisman has been lost for countless years. How did you get it? The 7-colored Taoist shouted in disbelief. Haha, who am I? During this period, I desperately refined a few pieces. I wanted to save them for some dangerous places, but I didn't expect to use them now. It's your honor to see my shadow-shifting talisman. Dandin laughed proudly. Kill. Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense. He stabbed his spear toward the flood dragon. The flood dragon did not resist at all. It faced Lu Ming with its chest and let him kill it. Damn it! The 7-colored Taoist roared again and again, desperately controlling the flood dragon's body to attack. Don't even think about it. The flood dragon was obviously not completely occupied by the 7-colored Taoist, and was desperately trying to control its body. Xian Yinqing walked over and used the heavenly demon force field to shroud the flood dragon's body and help to imprison it. Puchi, Lu Ming's long spear pierced the flood dragon's chest. Here, the scales had already been clawed off by the flood dragon, so its defense was greatly reduced. The incomparably sharp spear light easily pierced through the flood dragon's muscles and into its heart. No, the 7-colored Taoist roared. Ha ha ha! Old monster, you want to take my body? Dream on! The flood dragon laughed crazily. Boom! Lu Ming's long spear shook, and a burst of true essence surged into it, smashing the flood dragon's heart into pieces. Whoosh! Whoosh! At the same time, more than a dozen battle swords formed by the inscription array slashed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming pulled out his long spear and retreated quickly. With a bang, the flood dragon's body fell heavily to the ground. Ha ha, old monster, you've been plotting for 800 years, and you've failed in the end. The flood dragon laughed heartily. Slowly, its voice lowered, and its life force dissipated. Damn it, you're all going to die today. The 7-colored Taoist roared crazily. Before he died, he had set up a trap with a ball of true dragon blood and left clues outside in order to attract a flood dragon and then occupy its body. With the true dragon blood as a medium, he was confident that he could succeed. The lifespan of monsters was much longer than that of humans, especially for creatures like the flood dragon. With a long lifespan, the 7-colored Taoist could explore a higher realm. Unfortunately, the flood dragon was dead, and it was useless for him to occupy it. Refine, refine, refine. Hoo-hoo, a layer of purple flames suddenly appeared on the flood dragon's body. The purple flames wrapped around the flood dragon and burned it crazily. As it burned, the flood dragon's body shriveled, and the purple flames became stronger and stronger. In the end, the purple flames gathered in the air and formed a human figure. It was the seven-colored Taoist. Retreat. For some unknown reason, Lu Ming suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart. He pulled Xian Yanqing and retreated hurriedly. Very soon, they left the main hall. You want to leave? Without the flood dragon, kid, your body is not bad. Let me use it. The seven-colored Taoist smiled sinisterly. The purple flames turned into a stream of light and flew towards Lu Ming. Fast, too fast. It crossed the hall in an instant. It was several times faster than Lu Ming and the others. It was really like a stream of light. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing had just retreated to the entrance of the hall when the purple flames caught up with them. They shot directly towards Lu Ming's forehead and disappeared into Lu Ming's forehead. Not good. He wants to seize Lu Ming's body and destroy Lu Ming's soul. Xian Yanqing's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with worry. It's over, it's over. Little beauty, Lu Ming is finished. Your little lover is finished. Dandan shouted. What should we do? What should we do? Is there any way to save him? Dandan, aren't you an expert? Quickly think of a way. Xian Yanqing was extremely anxious. He was like an ant on a hot pan. His eyes were misty and he almost shed tears. At this moment, Lu Ming's forehead was covered with a layer of purple light. He sat cross-legged and seemed to be resisting with all his strength. There is a way, but I don't know if you're willing. Dandan touched its chin with one of its front paws. What way? Tell me, I'm definitely willing. Xian Yanqing said anxiously. Is that so? All right, I know a way. I want you and Lu Ming to practice the dual cultivation technique. This way, your soul can be transferred to Lu Ming's side and help him fight against the seven-colored Taoist. This way, your chances of winning will be much higher.